The sun has gone down on Father's Day, but the affection for Dad, it's still aglow. And what better way to feel the warmth than by spending the last few hours of this special day with Dad at the ballpark. Here in South Chicago, the White Sox vie with the team to the north for the town's affection. And manager Ozzie Guillen has drawn a lot of attention with his paternal instincts and smart ball savvy, guiding his Sox to the best record in baseball. Coming up, Game 3 of the Chi Sox weekend series with a rival they faced in the '59 World Series, the Los Angeles Dodgers, still in the thick of the race for the National League West. This series got underway Friday night. The White Sox, Jermaine Dye and Frank Thomas both homered for the third consecutive game, giving the White Sox a comfortable 6-0 cushion. Starting pitcher Mark Buehrle provided yet another all-star effort, a complete game shutout. The Sox rolled. Yeah, last night with Yancy Brazoban trying to close out a Dodger win, the Sox struck late. Aaron Rowland's RBI single tied the score, and A.J. Pierzynski followed with a walk-off home run to cap a dramatic ninth inning come from behind 5-3 win for the Pale Hose. Tonight, it's for another W for their division races and for dear old dads everywhere. The White Sox and the Dodgers go at it again. Now. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Welcome, everybody. This is Chicago, and a lot of dads and a lot of youngsters and a lot of moms are making their way into the ballpark tonight to see their home White Sox playing some magnificent baseball and with a chance tonight to sweep the Los Angeles Dodgers. We welcome you. Great to have you on hand here tonight at Chicago. They'll have a good house. Bank of America presents Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Been a long time since the Dodgers and White Sox have gotten it together, and the White Sox, with a victory tonight, would have 3 in a row against them. Hello, everybody. I'm Gary Thorne, along with Joe Morgan. John Miller, night off. His son, he's enjoying the commencement high school ceremonies there. So, John, happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to you, Joe.
Same to you, Gary.
And happy Father's Day to everybody out there, and we hope we'll add to it here tonight. For the Chicago White Sox, the surprise team in baseball. They are the best team in baseball right now. How come?
Well, you know, a lot of teams go out, Gary, and they wait for the big inning. They play for the big inning. Well, the Chicago White Sox, they start from the first inning on trying to score a run every inning. And sometimes they do it with a home run. Other times it's a sacrifice. Other times it's a stolen base. But whatever the rare, they've been able to score runs and have the best record in baseball, and they call it smart ball.
And so far, it has been very smart ball. Two pitchers who are going to go tonight were teammates with the New York Yankees in 2003. Contreras and Weaver. In fact, one took the place of the other in the rotation. How about the starters?
Well, I think Contreras has a lot of upside, and they're trying to bring that out here in Chicago. One of the things they're trying to do is make him work quicker on the mound, keep his concentration going. He has a loss of concentration every once in a while. They also want him to be more aggressive on the first pitch, throw more fastballs, try to get ahead of the count. And in Weaver's case, Weaver does have great stuff. I mean, here's a guy that everybody's wanted. All he has to do is maintain his concentration for 9 innings, and I think you'll see a #1 type pitcher. And tonight, I think you're going to see a good pitcher because they need it.
All right, we'll see whether or not they can come through. Part of our Sunday Night Baseball, not only the game, but all the stories that surround it. Sam Ryan will be along. Father's Day memories. Contreras has a lot of them to do with his family. And we'll take a look at Chicago's north side and south side, where you're for one or the other, but you are not for both. All coming up. Presentation of AL-NL Showdown is presented by State Farm and Interleague Play. Continuing here tonight at U.S. Cellular Field at Comiskey Park, the Dodgers and the White Sox ready to go at it. Dodgers need one. This has been a very tough start to a road trip. It lost 5 in a row. As Turris will be at the top. He's got to get on to make things go. So far, his numbers aren't bad. Childer looking for the long boy. Isop Choi, of course, that's the home run if he can get it. They've had to move Drew to center field, missing their regular center fielder now. Kent. He is their leader, batting in the cleanup spot. All the offensive numbers belong to him. The designated hitter, Sanchez, will make the start. We'll talk about why in this game. Wirth will be out in right field with that .244 average. Changes in left field. Grabowski will make the start in this game tonight. And Phillips will be doing the catching. He's been the regular behind the plate. Edwards gets the start at third base, where 3 or 4 players are getting opportunities now. And our starting lineup for the Dodgers brought to you by Bank of America. And on the mound, the 33-year-old right-hander Jose Contreras.
Well, you see his record there, 3-3, but this guy has a lot of potential. If he throws his fastball, gets ahead of the hitters, then he becomes more effective with his splitter and his changeup. But what happens is every time he gets in trouble, he goes to the changeup and off-speed pitches. They're trying to make him more aggressive, especially early in the count, and they also want him to work a lot quicker.
Both of these pitchers tonight, it'll be interesting to see who can dominate, if either. They both have had some pretty decent numbers in one sense, but both have given up the long balls. And in this ballpark, as summer moves in, there's a breeze blowing out again tonight. It swirls in from right and goes out to left. Both of these pitchers tonight, Contreras and Weaver, are subject to the long ball, and both of these teams have some guys in the lineup who can hit them. See what happens. Contreras ready to go as Torres stands in, and we are underway. Strike taken on the outside corner.
And just take a look and see how long. There he goes, walking behind the mound. He does a lot of things in between pitches. The players want him to work quicker. The team wants him to work quicker. His defense will stay on their toes if he can work quicker.
As Torres, always a threat to bunt, drew the corners of the infield in, takes that one to first. Konerko is there, and that is an easy and out as you can get. Starts the ball game out with a ground ball. Sam Ryan.
Gary, Father's Day holds a special meaning for Jose Contreras. It was this time last year Jose was pitching for the New York Yankees against the Dodgers on Sunday Night Baseball and hadn't heard from his family on Father's Day. He told me he was mad. He hadn't seen them in 20 months since defecting from Cuba. Turns out they were fleeing Cuba themselves at that time. 1 year later, they are here at U.S. Cellular Field on Father's Day watching Jose pitch tonight. He said so much has changed in a year, calling it incredible. It certainly is an incredible story. And hey, happy Father's Day, Gary and Joe.
Thank you very much. Aesop Choi and the pop out of Uribe, and there are going to be 2 down here in the first inning. Only 3 pitches sown so far, and there's the family that Sam was talking about. They are on hand here to watch after some 20 months where they had not seen their father. The mom and 2 daughters who made their way back to the United States from Cuba after he had defected, along with the Cuban national teammate Ariel Tostano. That was back in October of 2002 when they defected. They were in Mexico playing on the Cuban national team. And then 18 to 20 months went by before they finally made arrangements for his family to come to the United States. So the month of June has some very big meanings for him, and Father's Day more than ever. J.D. Drew, 0-1 count, 2 down, nobody on here in the first inning. The center fielder will take it outside for a ball.
Gary, I remember that story very well, and I always said that the mom was the hero in that family, not Contreras. She was the hero because she stayed behind and was always worried about him. And she was just a fabulous mom and took care of the kids, and he was obviously wanting them here. Once he got them here, everything has fallen into place. But that is a great lady right there.
Boy, it's hard to imagine what that was like for her, and
exactly.
Not knowing if it would ever happen.
Exactly. And she was staying behind in poverty, and he was over here and living in luxury, and it wasn't his fault. It was just the situation.
Yep. And he got him. Well, there's a start the family will enjoy. It only took 7 pitches. He retires the side in order. The Contreras family, little early celebration on Father's Day. We welcome you back to Chicago. Boy, what a night for baseball. As the White Sox coming up, Dodgers retired 1-2-3 in that first inning. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for the Chicago White Sox, presented by Bank of America. At the top of it, Posednik, he kicks it off, and if he gets on base, there are all kinds of problems. We're going to see Willie Harris get a start in the lineup tonight. Talk about what he's doing. Rolling a big part in last night's game. He'll be in center field. Paul Konerko anchors down that number 4 spot. Carl Everett sharing the designated hitter duties with Frank Thomas now. Jermaine Dye, he has been on a tear, makes a start in right field. A.J. Przinsky, hero. We'll talk about the catcher when he comes up. Joe Surtees will be making the start at third base, and Juan Uribe is at shortstop batting 9th. Jeff Weaver on the mound for the Dodgers.
Well, he needs to get his sinker over, definitely. He's similar to Contreras. He seems to lose his concentration throughout the ball game when things go against him. but he has a good sinker, good slider, and a good changeup.
28-year-old right-hander brings that pitch in for a strike. Scott Podsednik, when he gets on base, all kinds of things go on in the game, and they're usually good for the White Sox and bad for the opposition. Simple as that. He's like the starter on the engine for the Chicago team this season. It's just been an enormously different team.
And that's why they made the change. You know, they traded Carlos Lee, a power hitter who's also having a great year, to Podsednik so they could get a little more speed at the top.
That one is taken to left field. Playable. Wowski is there and hauls it in. Podsednik is retired on the fly ball up. One away here in the first inning, so the speedster who leads the majors in stolen bases might get a chance at his first at bat.
Well, the one thing, if you watch these the first two hitters, Gary, Podsednik, they were in very close. They're not going to change here for Willie Harris. That's the other thing that speed causes, you know, teams to do. They shorten up their defense, which obviously shortens up their range, and it makes it easier to get the ball through the infield.
See the numbers for Willie Harris that he has put up this season for the White Sox as he gets the opportunity for a start here in this game. And Willie Harris has not had a hit in his last 12 at-bats. They wanted the left-handed bat in the lineup against Weaver. So that's why we're going to see him at second base in tonight's game. Weaver is 299 left-handers against him and 248 right-handers. So that's the reason you want some left-handers in there. They generally, by the book, have a better shot at picking up base hits against him. Edwards is in at third base. That one down to first. Short hop. Choi will take it to the bag. And there are two down.
Like a
pretty
big
nice
Gazelle over there, right?
Huh? Not bad. You might be. I was surprised at this, Joel. We were talking about this. You might think a team that's the best in baseball would have a little better offensive numbers.
Well, I would definitely think they'd have a better on-base percentage. The average doesn't bother me, but the one thing that they do is when they do get on base, they move the runners along. The stolen bases, you know, sacrifice hits, sacrifice flies, they move the runners. They do what they're supposed to do, and that's why he calls it smart balls.
Got a run differential of a +61. That's enormous. And they have one of the biggest differentials between batting average and runs. They are 10th in batting average, but they are 5th in runs scored. So what you're talking about, when they get them on,
they move them along. They know how to. That's the main thing.
Move them along and get them in.
And that's, I mean, they do not discard the home run. They hit a lot of home runs. But by the same token, they're a team that knows how to win more than one way. And I think that's the key. When I talked to Ken Williams today, we were talking about the fact that they have a lot of different ways to win now.
That one is popped up. Second base. Jeff Kent backing up. Shallow right may be called off. Worth coming on and has to make a sliding catch. And Jeff Kent goes by him and says, hey, nice play. Because I wasn't going to get there. Only took 10 pitches to get out of the inning. 1-2-3. No score. A really important game here for the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're on a 13-game road trip. They're 0-5 to start the trip, and it's not going to get any easier. They've got to go to San Diego, and then they've got to go to Anaheim. And they know it. And there weren't a lot of smiles around the Los Angeles Dodger clubhouse before this game.
But I think this is a very big game for them for that reason, Gary. You do not want to go to San Diego, the team that you're chasing, on a down note. So tonight's game is very important for the Dodgers.
Jeff Kent, who's making the start at second base, takes that first ball to left field. Podsednik got turned around and around and around and still makes the... No, he dropped it. And Kent thought he had it and stopped at first.
Man.
That is about as merry-go-round a trip as I've seen an outfielder take. Kent pointing out there like I thought he had the ball. Kent stopped running after he circled first base, or he would have been on at second.
Well, what happened is the ball jammed him. He had the big swing, but it was a fastball tailing in, and it jams him. And Podsednik goes back instead of coming forward. Now he races in. Speed makes up for a lot of mistakes, but not this one. And he wasn't able to make the catch there. The ball goes in his glove, but he can't close it, and it bounces out.
Hit him in the chin.
Yeah, well.
Little embarrassment added to
I'm
it.
sure Contreras is not upset with it hitting him in the chin.
All right, Kent's on with a single to start out the second inning. Almeida signs a designated hitter at the plate. Those who may be familiar or not with ULS Cellular Field here, the home of the White Sox, do not go by the flags as to which way the wind is blowing. Go the other way. It'll always look like it's blowing in, but it's actually blowing out. It comes in from right off the lake and then swirls around home and goes out to left field. More so in the summer as it gets warmer, but even here tonight, if you stand down at home plate by the batting cage, you look up at the flags, they're blowing right at you, and you're wondering, where's the wind? You turn around and face the other way, and the wind hits you right in the face.
Right.
So for talking to Paul Konerko about that, he said as a hitter in this ballpark, he said you just can't think about it.
Right.
It doesn't have any impact. Just hit. And for fielders, he says you just do the best you can with it. You know it's going to be a swirling wind. Contreras comes inside. Signs getting the start as the designated hitter for the Dodgers. Both of these teams said, Joe, with each of these pitchers having the problems you talked about, concentration, they both said, we want to jump on these starters early and get them thinking about other stuff.
And that's exactly right. And that's the problem. When a mistake is made behind either one of them, they seem to slow down, and, you know, it seems to affect their concentration.
Kent not a big lead at first base. Signs of broken bat. The barrel flying out to third, and the ball is foul.
And I think therein lies what they're trying to get Contreras to understand. You have a good enough fastball that you can use it because there is movement on it. But he will get behind so many hitters, then have to come in with the fastball. And if it doesn't move as well, then he gets hit. I mean, now he's 2-1, but look at the movement. See, that fastball starts in the middle of the plate and runs in, and it shatters the bat. Watch the movement. You can see it start to tail in, and it shatters Signs' bat because he couldn't get the barrel out there. That tells you how good his fastball is and the movement that he has on it. He just has to gain confidence in it and be, you know, not worry about when he's throwing it. Just throw it any pitch, any time.
It's an outstanding batting average for him, 251. The opposition, second best in the American League. Neither team, neither side of the plate has done very much against him on the season. Kent again at first base, edging off. Signs fouls that one back. One of the things to watch for with Contreras, he threw 118 pitches in his last start. It is the second most pitches that he has ever thrown. Now he's working on regular rest, but will that have any impact as the game goes along if he can stay in?
Well, I don't think they expect him to pitch, you know, 9 innings, but you would like for him to. But I think Contreras is a work in progress. They're trying to build him up to having that kind of concentration so he can maintain it for 9 innings.
Signs takes that one to left field. Got a lot of it. Pacetic backing up at the warning track. Will have room and makes the catch.
Well, he got him just a little off balance with that curveball. It was a hanger, and he got him just a little bit out front. If he, you know, if he wasn't out front just a, you know, wee bit, that ball's out of here. Now watch where his balance is. See how he reaches out there to get it. Pretty good swing from Signs, but he didn't quite get enough of it.
Signs loving these interleague games as he gets a chance to be the designated hitter. He's got 7 home runs on the season and 30 RBIs. He's out there. Kent's back at first. Jason Worth will be coming to the plate, making the start in right field. Worth with a 4-game hit streak. Despite the fact the Dodgers, as we said, have taken that 0-5 mark here on the road. Contreras, knowing Kent's not going anywhere, isn't even looking over.
I thought he was going to go on that pitch, though, because watch, Contreras is slow, so deliberate in his delivery and so slow to the plate, you can steal the base easily. And I thought Jeff Kent was going on that particular pitch.
Had 13 stolen bases against him so far this season. Only 1 behind the American League leader, Dan Herron, who's given up 14 when he's been on the mound. Now, obviously, how much of that is due to the pitcher, how much to the catcher remains to be decided, but nevertheless, it's a high number.
Right, definitely a high number. And Moore could steal, but, you know, this is not the era of the stolen bases much anymore. You know, but I think we're going to get back to that. We're going to see more and more teams play smart ball, as the White Sox call it. And that doesn't mean just stealing bases or bunting. It means the whole deal.
Fastball is going to be taken down low by Worth, and a 2-ball, 1-strike count on the right fielder. I think it would be great for the game if that happened.
I agree, because I think it's more fun to watch things happen on the field than to just wait for the 3-run homer.
And the White Sox will lead that, Joe, if they win.
Right, exactly.
Well,
you always emulate the teams that win. You're exactly right. If they're able to win with this, then you will see more teams going to that type of strategy. And the point is, they're not giving up the home run. I mean, they're still hitting a lot of home runs. They're going to hit a lot of home runs, but they don't wait for the big inning. They will bunt, they will steal bases, they will sacrifice. I mean, they do everything to add on runs. One here, one there, and before you know it, they have 5 runs. And that's what they want, instead of just waiting for the big inning like a lot of teams do. You know, a lot of teams say they're not going to take a chance on a stolen base, or they're not going to give up an out by sacrificing. Well, Ozzie Guillen is just the opposite, and it's proven to be the right way so far.
And then the strong pitching to back it up. There goes Jeff Kent. Lord Almighty, keep an eye on this. A stolen base. He just doesn't get those. He'll be the first one to smile out there when he gets back to the dugout. He's not going to do it to embarrass, but he really had no choice there, Joe. He had to take off.
That's my point. Contreras forced him to steal that base. I mean, it's just so slow in his delivery. He forces you to run. You know, even teams that do not want to run, they're going to run if he's on the mound. I mean, he forces you to do it. That's what we're talking about. They wanted to be more aggressive, speed up a little bit, and he didn't do it on that particular pitch. He didn't do it to any of the pitches with Kent at first.
4 and a 5 for him. Stolen bases. RBI chance. Worth is on with a free pass, and that will put runners on at first and second with only 1 away here in the 2nd inning. There's the man who has talked a lot and been talked a lot about. Ozzie Guillen, manager of the Chicago White Sox. One thing you can say, no matter what you think about what he says, he's made it interesting.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's a guy that speaks his mind, and you know, a lot of people are not familiar with that in baseball. They're used to people talking around issues rather than going right at them.
Not in Chicago anymore.
You're right.
Jason Grabowski, left-handed hitter, is making the start in left field. Dodgers 2 on. And here's a chance for them to do some work against Contreras if Grabowski can come through. He's played in just 37 games, had only 61 at-bats. The only extra base hits that he's picked up have been homers. 4 home runs and 8 RBIs for him. He gets a chance here for an RBI with Kent on at second base, Worth on at first. Contreras works to him on the outside part of the plate and evens it up. 1 ball, 1 strike.
But see, this is the typical problem that Contreras has had. You know, the first inning he goes 1, 2, 3. He starts the second inning. Podsednik makes a mistake in the outfield, and before you know it, he's in trouble. I mean, that's what happens. You know, it seems like any little thing that goes wrong, it seems to bother him.
Dodgers looking to break out of that 4 for 29 with runners in scoring position. Big cut. Grabowski probably chased one out of the strike zone there, and it goes to 1 and 2. I wonder with Contreras, Joe, is it just because he doesn't know how to handle the situation where he gets in trouble?
Well, I think that's what it is. I mean, sometimes guys, they lose their concentration or their focus when something goes wrong. You know, say, well, it's not my fault. But you're the guy standing in the middle of the diamond. You are in control.
Bad pitch, swung on and missed. Boy, did Contreras get some help right there. Now let's check in with the studio. Sports Center 30 at 30.
Thank you, Gary. Dave Epstein in the studio. It is time for our Sports Center 30 at 30 update. Quick reminder, NBA Finals Game 5 getting started over on ABC. U.S. Open goes to Michael Campbell. Takes it by 2 strokes over Tiger Woods. Campbell, the first New Zealander to win a major in 42 years. Rafael Palmeiro, his 560th career homer today. 3 behind Reggie Jackson for 10th on the all-time list. The Orioles top the Rockies 4-2. Gary?
So the Orioles continue to get it done and hang on in that American League East, where they have been, like the Chicago White Sox, leading their division. Here's Phillips, 2 down, 2 on, takes that one to short. Force at second. Uribe goes there and gets it with Harris there. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, 2 left on base. 4 for 31 runners in scoring position. On deck, Sunday Night Baseball here on ESPN. North side, south side, top of the 4th. We'll talk about it live with Ozzie. That'll be at the end of the 5th. And our Sunday night soundtrack, Toby Keith, mid-7. Take a look at the fundamentals area here at U.S. Cellular Field. White Sox putting this in so the kids can go out there and practice play, test themselves, running, hitting, fielding, and watch the ball game.
And play smart ball out there. Learn about smart ball.
We're going to learn it.
Yeah.
Gonna have to rename that the smart ball area.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah, that's right. Here's Paul Konerko leading it off. He'll be followed by Everett and Dye, bottom of the 2nd inning. The White Sox 3-game win streak, including the 2 they've had over the Dodgers. They have been in first place every day so far in this division. After all the years where they've tried to figure out a way to chase down the Minnesota Twins, now it's the Twins trying to find a way to chase them down.
And I think that makes for a great race. Both of these teams are fundamentally sound, good pitching. They play a similar type game.
They think they finally figured it out in that dugout. Herm Snyder is the man who's got his arm around the manager, is the trainer, and as I like to say, the brains behind the organization. Hermie, who's been here forever. That one is taken outside, and one of those deadly leadoff walks. So Weaver puts the leadoff man on here in the second inning. You see the days in first from 2001 to 4 combined was only 94. They've already been there 76 so far this season.
Well, I congratulated, Kenny Williams, the general manager, on things been going well. He said, well, come back and congratulate me in September and I'll be happy.
I saw a statement. I was looking at Kenny Williams before the season started. I was reading an article, preseason article. He said, I believe the best pitching will win our division. And he has gone out and put together a staff that's giving him that right now, along with the balanced offense.
Well, you're right. I mean, we talk about smart ball. Everyone does. But smart ball works very, very well when you have great pitchers like they have.
Amazing, isn't it?
They have a very good staff. ERA, they do not need a lot of runs. They just need you to score enough, for them to win on a nightly basis. Mark Buehrle, ever since the first time I saw him, I pitched a game in Detroit on a real cold, windy night. We were doing a game there on Sunday night, and I knew he was going to be a great pitcher from that night, and he just seems to get better and better now.
They certainly have got
He's
the numbers.
The leader of the staff.
Yeah, he is. Kyle Everett will take the pitch for a strike. Everett, a switch hitter, who is working in the designated hitter role. One of the, and I put this in quotations, problems for Ozzie Guillen right now is Frank Thomas is back.
A lot of people say, well, they'd like to have that kind of problem where they have 2 guys for that one position.
And a base hit. That's down to Weaver. Played back in by Drew, and the White Sox have 2 on and nobody out as Everett delivers.
In some cases, I think that's good unless they're both really good players. If you have 2 average players, I think it works. As we see Carl Everett, very good hitter, low fastball hitter. He just lines it right back through the middle for a base hit. But the problem that I think presents itself here in Chicago is Frank Thomas has been a star. We know he can put up big numbers. Carl Everett's had some good years. Now, the point is, the other night, Frank Thomas hit another home run. He's hit 5 home runs since he's been back. Carl Everett's doing well. Now, how do you know that if Frank Thomas was playing today, he wouldn't do more than Carl Everett today? Or when Everett's playing, he'd do more than Frank? The point is, players who play every day, they produce numbers for you. And if you try to split that time, you may not get the same production that you would get from having just one guy. So even though a lot of players, people say they'd like to have that problem, sometimes it is a problem.
And Ozzie has hinted that it is a problem.
Right.
Rather than just coming out saying, yeah, it's okay. Dye to third. Around the horn. Edwards, Kent, Choi. So Jermaine Dye, the hottest hitter they have in the lineup right now, hits into a big double play. 5-4-3. Konerko goes to third, but there are 2 down. What Joe is talking about, obviously, you've got a hero here in this Southside ballpark who's waiting to play more games. And that, of course, is Thomas. You've got Carl Everett, who's come on and done probably more than they ever anticipated. Now you want the most you can get out of that position, but who is it?
Right, exactly. I mean, on a given night, that's the problem. You take a guy out. Frank hit a home run Friday night. He's not playing tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not defending or criticizing. I'm just saying that sometimes it does create a problem.
Krasinski's at the plate. He was 0 for 15 when he came to the plate last night and delivered a game-ending home run off Yancy Brazoban that ended it in the 9th inning. The big cheer for him. He's got a runner on at third base here with 2 down. Down to first base. That may have almost hit the corner of the bag. Aesop Choi will play it, and that takes care of a possible big inning. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 left on. No score after 2. Pitch is taken outside as we go to the 3rd inning. Mike Edwards, and there you see the youngsters in that fundamental area. They are actually racing the time of Scott Posednik, world's leading base stealer. Now you can slow Posednik down there. So they have an advantage. Line to second base. Easily played. Harris is there. Edwards is retired. See, they control the time on old man on the left there, so the kids have a chance to win. But you can race Posednik actually at his actual speed if you want. I don't want it.
No, I don't think anybody would want to go out there and do that. Might send Carl Lewis out there or somebody, check him out.
You, if you had good knees.
No.
But, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Cesar Torres, he grounded out his first time up as Contreras and Weaver going at it here, and both teams seem willing to go after pitches early here in the at-bats. Nobody's actually gone up there and taken many. That one to right center field. It is in the gap. Rowan to die going back. Rowan will get there and puts it away. They're at 2 down. Let's check in a little bit about this ballpark. Sam Ryan.
Gary, one of the features that makes U.S. Cellular Field unique, aside from fundamentals, the food, something everybody loves. It's all about variety here, the diversity representing the different neighborhoods. You got what the Sox tell me is their #1 seller. This is the kosher hot dog. They say it's all about the grilled onions, then corn off the cob. Look at that. You got cheese, mayonnaise, butter, peppers, a little bit of everything, salt, even lime. Then you have your steak, pita, your Mexican churros, and your corned beef. Gary, I heard Joe was looking for some popcorn before. I'm thinking you're a corned beef guy.
I'm thinking that's Joe's diet right there, Sam.
Yeah, without the bread.
Without the bread. You just take it with the pickle, and then he'll eat all the other stuff after. Pitch is taken inside again. Aesop Choi popped out his first time up. Didn't wait at all in that first at bat. You see the 13 home runs, 29 RBIs. Went on a tear last week in the home run department. We'll have to keep the pace he's at right now going all year. Fouls that one off outside of first base. U.S. Cellular Field, of course, came into existence after the old Comiskey was finally shut down. 91 is when it opened. One of the new wave of modern ballparks, and the first one built here since 1929. You see the dimensions. The dirt came from the old Comiskey to be used over here in the second best home run park. Note that the second best home run park in the majors. Aesop Choi's one hopper. Harris makes the play, and that's going to do it. 1, 2, 3 innings. So far, Contreras and Weaver have started dominating the hitters. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball presented by Bank of America. I'm Gary Thorne along with Joe Morgan, Sam Ryan, and the youngsters. I think he just put one downtown. He's got that home run trot going. That's where you can practice that. He hasn't got that flipper out, though. These pitchers early on looking strong. Joe Crede up will be followed by Uribe in the #9 spot. Posednik then at the top. Due up here for the White Sox. 2 for 7 in the series so far for the third baseman of the White Sox. Sox have a chance to gain another game on Minnesota. Minnesota lost today. Like Santana got beat today. So right now it's 7 games. The differential between Chicago and Minnesota is 7.5 if the White Sox could win this one. Weaver on the outside corner, 2-1.
But I think one of the things that's going to happen, especially the second half, you're not going to make up a lot of ground on Chicago where they lose 5 or 6 games in a row. Their pitching staff is too good. And therefore, you know, I don't think that you're going to be able to catch the White Sox. That's just my feeling. I think Minnesota may win the wild card, or if they are lucky enough to catch the White Sox, then the White Sox might win the wild card. But I think it's very difficult to catch a team when they have starting pitching as the White Sox have.
Swung on and missed. What a nasty jam job that was right there by Weaver. Let's see what's going on elsewhere. What's up at the other ballparks?
Okay, Gary, let's check in on who's going yard, presented by John Deere. Tigers and Giants in the 10th. Placido Polanco has been great since coming over from the Phils. The walk-off homer. Tigers take 2 of 3 from San Fran. They win it 10-8. Gary.
All right, Dave, thanks very much. Here we've got no score in this final game of the 3-game set. White Sox-Dodgers. Juan Uribe up 1 for 7 in the series. Takes a strike on the outside corner. Weaver looks like a 20-game winner here in the first couple of innings of the ball game, as does Contreras.
Well, I said he has great stuff. If he can keep his sinker down and just keep his focus, I mean, he's capable of, you know, pitching a very fine ball game, and I think he will. But it's back to the same thing. I think the White Sox have more ways of scoring a run than, say, the Dodgers do.
Uribe chops that one foul. And ahead on the count here, 0-2. Take a look at the American League Central. What Joe was talking about, that's how difficult it becomes early for the Twins and the Red Hot Indians.
Yeah, the Indians are playing great. I mean, the Indians are on fire. I mean, I expected them to be in the mix from the beginning.
Ooh. Backed him off the plate, and then the ball came over the inside corner. Uribe kind of backing away, going, what was that? Well, it was a strikeout, actually.
Well, he has this herky-jerky motion. He kind of drops down a little bit, and you can see the ball starts at Uribe, and it's definitely in the strike zone, even though Phillips was set up over the outside corner. Now watch where he starts from. See, when that ball, you drop down like that, it freezes the hitter for a moment. It's not so much they're afraid of the ball, but they can't find it, and that creates fear. If you don't find the ball right away, then you're afraid.
That's a major problem.
Yeah.
All right, even with 2 down, looking for the bunt here. Pasetnik with that tremendous speed leads the majors. 35 stolen bases, on a pace to steal 85 if he could get there. That one, little breaking ball that came inside, knocked away, and it goes to a 2-0 count.
I think everything depends on how often he gets on base. He's gonna, if he hits well as he has been, he'll get on base. He'll make things happen. But you have to get on base to steal second and third, so you can't steal first base.
Tried to chop that one by the drawn-in third baseman. Whoa!
That wasn't fouled by much. He just took a hack at a high pitch.
Field and Culbreth, the third base umpire, to wait for that one to hop along.
Well, you can see that the third baseman is in tight. Well, Choi just moved back because now there are 2 strikes. Well, it's only 1 strike. I don't know why he moved back.
Boy, if he dropped one down to first right now, he'd have a pretty good shot.
Well, I guess he's saying he won't bunt with 2 outs. But in the first inning, he was in very close at first base.
Pasetnik indeed takes the strike from Jeff Weaver, and a 2-ball, 2-strike count. If he slows down, the White Sox will slow down. It really,
right, exactly.
That will happen.
Yeah.
He is that important to this team, and he's gone. So, struck the side out. Weaver with 3 Ks here in the third. On the south side, that's the uniform you see. It's Wrigley and the Cubs on the other. A bit about the north side and the south side when we come back. No score here. Gene Wojciechowski, a senior writer, ESPN.com, and an 11-year resident of Chicago. A tongue-in-cheek look at what the Cubs have and the Sox don't.
In Chicago, almost nobody puts their head on a pillow at night and says, gee, I hope one day I can see a game at U.S. Cellular. So they say it about the world's largest Ivy beer garden, Wrigley Field. Only the Cubs can sell a jillion bracelets and say, believe. Cubs followers are optimists and fatalists. If there was a car wreck, Cubs fans would try to buy tickets to it. The Cubs have a superstation and sellouts, a Mr. Cub and a Mr. Bartman, Anguish and Addison. They also have their newest 100-year rebuilding plan. You see, some things never change.
I guarantee you that'll draw about as many opinions as the number of people in Chicago.
I agree with that. There were some things in there that were questionable.
It's one way or the other, though, in this city, boy. Yeah. It's the North and it's the South. And now you got the #1 team in baseball playing on the South side. Great off-speed delivery. J.D. Drew called out on strikes. Mayor Daley is on hand. He has been a lifelong White Sox fan, open, adamant about it. So much so that he likes to criticize the White Sox manager for throwing young pitchers too often in tough situations. He did that this past week.
You have a better feel anyway. You used to work here, right?
I did. I worked here. I did the games for the White Sox in the old Comiskey Park, actually, for a year before it closed down. That one, a slow ground ball. Boy, they hitters are really not finding a way to get it done. Now, Gene Wojciechowski, we got to have a side on the White Sox about this. We've heard the Cubs side. Here's the White Sox take.
The Sox will never own this town until they perfect their baseball tragedies. The 1919 Black Sox were a nice start, and chasing Harry Carey to the north side was brilliantly stupid. But softball uniforms, disco demolition, blowing up beloved old Comiskey Park for a $250 million work in progress? Please, call me when you get a goat, or better yet, blow the AL Central lead.
And there you pretty much have it.
Well, one of the other things that people may not be aware of is that the Sox used to be on WGN.
That's right.
Because they outdrew, the Cubs in those days. They used to be on WGN, and then they moved away from there and the Cubs took over.
Foul back by Jeff Kent. He had a single his first time up and a stolen base. I was telling you the story, Joe, this morning about when I came to work for the White Sox, and I'm not from Chicago, from New England, and went on the air. One of the first games I did with the White Sox, I was giving a Chicago Cubs score, and I referred to them as the Cubbies. Well, the phone started ringing at the old Comiskey. Oh, my gosh. Lesson learned. You do not call them the Cubbies if you're from this side of town. Check swing by Kent. That's how serious they take it. 1-2 strike count. One of the things that's proven true in history, though, in all sports, if you win, that will probably change.
That will probably change. You're exactly right.
And right now it's the White Sox who are putting up the big numbers. The best in Major League Baseball, and increasing their attendance as they do so. Jeff Kent. Contreras' pitch is taken inside. Future Hall of Famer here to join you in Cooperstown, Joe? Right there, batting?
You know, that's a good question. I think, you know, Jeff Kent has definitely done things that no other second baseman other than Roger Hornsby has done, so he does have great credentials. I think the one thing he does better than any other second baseman right now, he makes the double play better, and that's one of the things you have to look at is defense.
Well, he was worried about that pitch. He's a .289 career hitter coming into this season, trying to up that average here this year. 292 career home runs, the most all time by a second baseman. He has always been a power hitter, and he draws the walk here. So Kent has been on twice. This one comes with one away in the 4th inning. Contreras has walked 2. Signs will be coming up. Take a look at these two sides of Chicago. The last time a title was won, a lot of distance for both of them. You got the beloved Wrigley, 1914, the new ballpark here. The attendance figures, percentage of capacities always gone to the Cubs, smaller yard, part of that, and the wins, of course, have mattered. And now we'll see how much it changes here this year. Signs with a runner on at first base, and the pitch is a called strike. He flied to left field his first time up. American League champions 1959, 1919 on the banners that are flown here at U.S. Cellular. And the last World Series, of course, was against these Los Angeles Dodgers. They have not been in a World Series since 1917, the World Championship. It's been a long wait. Signs takes it outside.
And you see a little difference in Contreras' approach here with Kent this time. He's holding the ball longer, making sure he doesn't get a running start on him. So he is more aware, but anytime you're more aware of the base runner, you're taking a little bit of your concentration away from the hitter. So
that's a balance, Joe. You just can't seem to strike. Huh?
You cannot strike a balance between the two. If you got 100% concentration, you give any of it away, you can't give 100 the rest of the way to the other hitter.
That is going to be looped down the line, and that's going to fall in for a base hit, roll into foul territory. Asendic over to get it. Kent's coming to third. He'll be held up there, and it'll be a stand-up double. So Signs delivers the 2-bagger, and the Dodgers have their best scoring chance of the ball game with third and second occupied and only one away.
And that's one of those examples of things that happen when you're in a stretch, when you're worried about it. This is a hanging breaking ball, and Signs doesn't hit it hard, but he hits it in the right spot. You can see he's out in front a little bit as he was his first time up. He's been out in front of the same pitch twice. The last time he hit a fly ball to left, but this time he finds the hole down the left field line. He ends up with a double.
Now the Dodgers will look for what they've not been able to find, and that is that big hit. Trying to come up with a hit with runners in scoring position. Jason Worth's coming up. He drew a walk his first time up. Contreras 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, including Kent, the 1-out walk in this inning, is on to third base now.
Well, it looks like the only place he can't score, meaning Kent from third on a ground ball to the infield, might be third base. He should be able to score every place else.
Freedy in at third, everybody else back. Kent gets that early start on the pitch just in case. There you see with runners in scoring position. Not bad. It's not a bad number, not a great number, but not bad. His team overall hitting .265 in that department, so Worth above that. 1 ball, no strike delivery. Contreras got it in. That's going to be a base hit into right field. Kent will score. Signs will be held. Throw overthrown, but the runner will stay at first base. So Worth delivers the RBI, and the Dodgers have the 1-0 lead.
Well, and the Dodgers get a run here, but that's another example of the difference between, say, the White Sox and the Dodgers right there. A single to right center field, both runners would have scored if they were the White Sox. And I thought that Signs should have scored. I thought they should have scored it. Jason Worth does a great job. Now look at it's a base hit right now. I mean, right away it's a base hit. You don't have to wait. And you can see how Dye had to back up. I mean, you should be going all the way right there. They don't even have the ball yet. Now he picks it up, but they're holding him at third. You have to score on base hits that are not hit directly at the outfield.
Runners now at first and third with one down. Grabowski at the plate takes that one on a number to third. Grady second one. The relay. Great pivot made by Harris, who got dumped.
And that's why
Willie Harris. Whoa, Dougie. 1-0 lead for the Dodgers. Could have been a lot worse inning right there, but the Dodgers come away with a run on a couple of hits and take the 1-0 lead. 1-3-0 for the Dodgers. 0-1-0 for the White Sox. Sox looking to sweep this series from L.A. Harris, great play on that pivot at second base to turn two as he got dumped out there on the slide, but he got the throw off.
And a smart play by Creedy to go that way. Sometimes the third baseman will look up and he sees the runner going home. He takes the runner at home, but they may still be hitting. But you got the double play. Go ahead and take it.
Off-speed delivery taken for a strike. Jeff Weaver showing the changeup right there to Willie Harris. Rowan Konerko to follow. Here's that takeout at second base.
And Jason Worth runs well. Here's a quick release, good high throw. There you see Worth coming in, but a nice pivot, as you said, by Willie Harris to get rid of the ball before he's knocked over by Jason Worth.
Willie Harris up there. Joe, you took a few of those at second base. What the key to getting the throw to first? What are you doing out there when you know you're going to get plowed into?
Well, your first thought has to be to make the double play first and then worry about your body second. I know that sounds, you know, a little tough, but that's what you have to do as a second baseman. I mean, you have to make the throw.
Yeah. What are you looking at now to make sure the throw is going to be good when you're at second base?
Well, as soon as he releases the ball, every second baseman would like the ball here on their left shoulder so they can catch it and get rid of it like that. Now, he had to reach across a little bit, but that also protected him a little bit with the bag. That means he had the bag between him and the base runner. But the base runner still got there. But you have to be able to catch the ball and get rid of it quickly. Now, watch what Harris does. See, now watch, he's on the left side. Now, watch, the bag does protect him a little bit because he can't go over the bag, meaning the base runner. He has to slide underneath, stay down. But you can see that's what a second baseman is supposed to do. And that's as the old saying goes, when you asked me about Ken a second ago, the #1 job of a second baseman is to play defense and make the double play.
Weaver.
Anything else, you know, is an added bonus, so to speak. But that's your job. It's like a shortstop. He's supposed to play defense. Jeff Kent can really turn the double play. I mean, we saw Willie Harris. He makes the play right. Now watch, this is a little different play because the throw got there in plenty of time before the runner was there. But Jeff came away, got away from the bag, and then he was able to throw. His was a lot easier to make than Willie Harris, but Jeff Kent makes the tough one as well. But that's your key as a second baseman. You've got to be willing to take the blow, but you got to think about making the throw first.
My partner here, .981 fielding percentage at second base. Hall of Fame, and he didn't just field. He also did a pretty good job on the base paths running and at the plate hitting.
And I also have some of those scars on my legs.
That's exactly right, but you earned them.
Mark.
You earned them, by Gary. Aaron Rowan up. One down, nobody on. He flied out to right field his first time up. Another slow chopper. Edwards up, running throw. Nice play. And that's something a third baseman has to do.
Exactly.
You got to help your pitcher out by cutting those off, and that's exactly what he did. Let's take a look at our Goodyear game track. Weaver piling up the strikeouts early. The RBI single picked up by Worth that would bring in one run in the fourth inning, giving Los Angeles the lead as Kent came around. Now Kent got on base with another one of those walks. Only two surrendered by Contreras, but one of them has come around to score. That's the 1-0 lead on the board right now. Two down here in the fourth inning. Konerko drew a walk his first time up. Konerko has seen a lot of Weaver, with Weaver pitching in the American League before. He's done 6 for 24 with a couple of home runs off him. Paul Konerko is trying to get that average up. They would love to see some higher numbers. He had a 13-game hit streak ended last night.
And the interesting thing, Gary, is that he was hitting 194 a while back, but he was producing runs. He was driving in runs. I mean, his RBI numbers and his home runs, everything looks good. But you need to get on base more so someone else can drive you in.
Konerko, 2-0 delivery to him. He's taking the breaking ball away. So a 3-0 count. That's a tough start in the first 40 games. That's more like Konerko the last 26.
But again, 196, but he had 9 home runs and 28 RBIs. That's pretty good.
Sometimes you got to look at the whole page.
Yeah, you do. You can't just pick one number. And I think the batting average is the least important of the group.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's what you do when you got opportunities to bring people home.
Yeah. So with the great, Manny Ramirez, one of the great hitters in the game, he got off to a slow start batting average-wise, but he was driving in runs. And that's, look, that's his job. His job is not to hit 300 and steal 30 bases. His job is to drive in runs. Pasetnik's job is to get on base. So where you hit in the order determines what you're supposed to do for your ball club.
And Carl Everett had a comment tonight about that I thought fit perfectly, Joe, just what you're saying. He calls it unit baseball.
All right.
He said it's about the unit. It's about the whole thing.
Right.
How does the whole thing work together?
Good point.
And he says that's what we're doing. He said we've got unit baseball. Each person knows what the role is, and they do what they're supposed to do, and we're winning.
Carl said that?
Carl said that.
Okay.
I swear to God, I was standing there with Carl, and he said it.
And I think that's a very good, explanation of what they do.
We're joking about that because Carl said some other things lately we don't even want to talk about.
Yeah. But I mean, the point is, if you're Pasetnik, your job is to get on base. If you're hitting second, your job is to move guys around. If you're hitting third and fourth, you're supposed to drive those guys in when they get on base, and that's what Konerko was doing, and that's what you want from your third and fourth place and fifth place hitters, RBIs.
3-ball, 2-strike count. That one's ripped foul. And of course we have an obligation in the media. If we've already brought something up, we got to say it. So I did it. It's my fault. In an article in a magazine recently, Carl Everett was interviewed. He called the congressional hearings on steroids stupid. He said congressmen are being idiots. That is a direct quote, by the way. I'd say Wrigley's the worst park. They need to implode Wrigley. Golfing is not athletic. That's a direct quote. And it's proven, he said, that 99% of baseball fans have no idea what they're watching. And that's why they hired Joe and I, because we take care of that 99%. 1, 2, 3 inning, it's 1-0. Thank you, Carl. Let's take a look at the Lowe's home team advantage for the White Sox this season, 22-10. They are tied for the best win percentage in the American League with Boston at home. The amazing thing is they've won one more game than that on the road. How about that? They're 23-12 on the road. So they have used that home field advantage and then gone out and won games away as well. A 1-0 lead, 1-3-0 for the Dodgers, 0-1-0 for the White Sox. Their lone hit, Carl Everett, a single that came in the second inning. Jason Phillips is up, leading it off from the 8th spot. Their catcher hit into a fielder's choice his first time up. Good feel-good story right there. Jason has been around baseball a long time. Minors, backup catcher, now gets his chance.
Yeah.
He's got an opportunity to prove himself worthy of being a starting catcher. 266 and the 4 home runs on the year, way out in front of the off-speed pitch.
Well, Contreras has a great splitter and a changeup. He has great arm speed with it. That's the key to off-speed pitches, is showing the same arm speed that you use on a fastball. You can see right there, good arm speed. Even though it was in slow motion, he finished it off.
And comes back with a fastball that misses down low. 2-ball, 2-strike count. 33 years old, 61 strikeouts in 78 innings. A very good hit per innings pitch ratio. 62 hits in 78 innings. How can he be 3-3?
Well, they're right there. Now he's going to 3-2 count on a guy that he should have been able to put away on the 2-2 pitch. He was wasting the fastball instead of throwing the fastball. He had him way out in front of the changeup, so the guy has to be looking changeup. The fastball would have been a better pitch to finish him off with.
3-2 delivery off the fist. Back into the seats. It'll hold the count, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Tom Seaver always used to say the adage in pitching for him was when you get the guys you know you can get out, do not fool around with them.
Well, and I played behind Tom for 1 year, faced him a lot of years, and he was right. That's why he just went after me, huh?
That's why. He didn't want to say that, Joe. Your name was brought up. He said, you know, when Morgan came up, it was 3 fastballs and I'm done.
Get him out of here, right? But I did play behind Tom, and I had a chance to watch him. I mean, he did do that. The guys that he didn't think had a chance, they didn't have a chance. He just blew them away and said, get on out of here, bring up another one. So
when you faced him, if you weren't a good hitter, you better have had an idea, because he had an idea that you weren't going to hit.
Exactly.
And he was just going to throw it at you until you proved you could. 3-ball, 2-strike count. Ferris's pitch misses, and there's what we were talking about. He had the lead advantage in that and lost him. Well, the GM is smiling right now here in Chicago. Sam Ryan.
And good reason for Kenny Williams to be smiling, Gary. He's got the best team in baseball. In the middle of interleague play, Kenny, next weekend you got the Cubs. We were talking about the Cubs-White Sox a little bit earlier in the broadcast. How do you define the rivalry?
Well, it's always nice to play the neighbors to the north, and you know, it certainly doesn't lack the city's excitement, and mostly for us, though, the anxiety level is a little high, and the nerves are a little high, and we're mostly glad when it's over, you know, as long as we've taken a couple games in the process.
It's a rivalry, and you used the nice word. They have Wrigley Field. Your attendance here is up, although they don't have a problem over there at Wrigley. They seem to get a lot more publicity and almost more respect. What is it that they have that you think your team deserves, Kenny?
Well, you know, it is what it is, and I don't know that we can spend too much time worrying about it. All we can worry about is putting the best team we can possibly put on the field, and hopefully in the race to get to the playoffs in the World Series, maybe we can, you know, garnish a little more support in that fashion. But, you know, I've kind of worried about it a little bit in past years. I think that really does the people that come out and support us a disservice to a certain extent. So I'd rather focus on what we have to offer for them in the ballpark, and I think you've been around the ballpark a little bit today, and there's a lot to offer here. So it's just a matter of us trying to really focus on the task at hand.
I know you'd rather be focusing on what's going on the field, but making headlines from some of the comments made by some of your players and Ozzie Guillen over the past couple of days. Carl Everett, Gary, and Joe were just talking about those comments. In addition to that, Mark Burley was accusing a Cubs pitcher of throwing spitballs. How much of a distraction has that been?
Well, I think we need to work with our guys a little bit more on being able to express themselves to a greater degree. They seem to have a little problem with that, and I say that facetiously because obviously they've expressed themselves this week, and I think we really need to focus on the job at hand, the task at hand, and leave all the political issues and all the other things to people that are qualified and a little more knowledgeable in those aspects. And I think it takes away from the true character of what I know these guys to be. I know Carl Everett and I know Mark Burley and Ozzie to be thoughtful people and caring people. And it was just yesterday that Carl Everett spent 20 minutes with a handicapped kid in front of our dugout. Well, those things don't get the attention that some of the other things do. But I see that, and sometimes, you know, it saddens me to think that other people don't see that. They only see some of the more inflammatory things.
As far as what we are seeing on the field, what have been the keys to success for this team?
Well, you know, it starts, I think, with an attitude. They come out on a day-to-day basis and give it everything they got, and they really pay attention to the little things, the details. We focused on pitching, obviously, and defense, and we tried to really kind of go back to the basics of what some of John Sherholt's teams, for instance, have done in the past, or the Minnesota Twins, the team that we've been trying to overtake for the last few years, and really focus on getting back to the basics of what wins baseball games. And it starts with that pitching staff, and it starts with defense. We've got a little more speed at the top and the bottom of the order. So there's a variety of ways that we can beat you on a given day. But, you know, we'll try to stay humble about it and keep working hard, and hopefully you'll have reason to talk to us in October.
Well, we'll see, Kenny. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the run scores as Jason Phillips will cross. What a manufactured run that was. He stopped Choi on that little chopper and a little hesitation as to what they were going to do with that ball in the infield. After the sacrifice by Cesar Izturis moved the runners into scoring position, Jason Phillips comes in, RBI, and it is a 2-0 lead. Not sure what they were thinking over here for the moment. Wasn't clear who was going to pick that up or who was going to cover first.
Well, I think what should have happened is the first baseman, Konerko, should have charged it. Maybe could have bluffed the guy from third, kept him from scoring.
Phillips is not a speedy runner.
Exactly.
So a 2-0 lead for the Dodgers. And credit the RBI to Hee-Seop Choi, now runner on at third base. There are 2 down, and J.D. Drew, who has struck out and been called out on strikes, stands in. Spring training all about center field. Who is going to play? Milt Bradley, J.D. Drew. Well, Milt Bradley's on the DL now, so J.D. Drew is there. Torn ligament, ring finger for Bradley. May 29. J.D. Drew gets the start in center. 12 home runs and 30 RBIs for him, and a chance for an RBI with 2 outs if he can get a base hit here.
But it appears that they may be trying to not necessarily pitch around him, but made him go out of the strike zone. But I don't know how wise that is with Jeff Kent on deck.
Yeah. Contreras has walked 3 so far in the game. Wouldn't you know it, 2 of them have crossed the plate for the Dodgers.
Fastball. So that's one of the things that they don't think that he does enough of. Go after the hitter. Use his good stuff. He's got a great fastball. That's what we're talking about with Jason Phillips. He ended up walking the guy. He should have just gone right after him after he got ahead in the count with a good fastball. Get him out of there, as Tom Seaver would have done.
Edwards picked up the single following him, and then Asturias with that sacrifice bunt that almost turned into a base hit for him. 2 ball, 1 strike count, 2 down. Runner at third. Good stop made. Brzezinski blocks that one to make sure it doesn't go by. And Ozzie seeing smart ball being played against him here in this game by the Dodgers.
Look, when you're successful, teams will start to emulate what you do. I mean, that's one of the things that baseball has always done. I mean, if a team wins a world championship playing one way, then that's what you will see the next year from a lot of different teams.
3 ball, 1 strike count here. Another slow roller outside of first base, and the count will go to 3-2.
I remember when the Yankees were winning like 4 out of 5 world championships. It wasn't with home run power. They were playing great ball, smart ball, as Ozzie Guillen would say. I mean, they would run the bases well, go from first to third on singles, steal a base here and there, sacrifice, and every once in a while hit a home run. And that's what a lot of teams try to do to emulate it.
And the Dodgers now, when you've lost 5 in a row in this 13-game road trip, just trying to find a way to get the lead and just get the engine going again. That one, Contreras could not reach. Harris is going to make a quick throw, and he can't do it, and the run will score.
Well, the way they were playing in the position, Harris was playing deep and on the outfield grass around the pool. Anything up the middle, he was not going to have a chance to throw him out on. And I think he was playing him that way because of the off-speed pitches. See where he is? Look at this. And anything up here, he's not going to be able to throw J.D. Drew out because he runs well. And this ball's not hit hard. If Contreras can't catch it, which he could not do, see, that ball takes about 6 bounces, and it's up the middle. No way he's going to be able to throw Drew out. So the defense was set up for one thing. Drew hit it away from the defense.
And actually, if he'd hit it harder, Joe, they would have a better chance to get the out.
Exactly.
In fact, it was hit so slowly, they couldn't. So a 3-0 lead. Credit Drew with the RBI, his 31st run batted in on the season. That will bring Kent to the plate. He's walked and singled, stolen the base, and scored a run. And he jumped on that one and fouled it back. Wanted that pitch.
Well, the key to this whole inning was the walk to Jason Phillips, and he was ahead in the count, and he could not put him away. And now Jason Phillips has come in to score a run. And if he throws another pitch like that to Jeff Kent,
there'll be 2 more runs.
Yeah, maybe some more runs scored. You got to, if you're going to throw the fastball to Kent, you better get it inside. You can't get it out over the plate.
14 home runs in the year. Team leading 53 RBIs. Runner goes. Hit to right center field deep. Dye's going to get there and will haul it in. But a couple of runs are added on 2 hits with the base runner left on. Dodgers lead it 3-0. Carl Everett, as though he might bunt, takes that first pitch. As we go to the bottom half of the 5th inning, Everett, Dye, Brzezinski, a due-up. Carl Everett delivered a single. It is the only hit the White Sox have so far off Jeff Weaver. Weaver has walked 1 and struck out 3. Lifetime 5-5 mark against this White Sox team. Carl Everett has been a big part of this offense, as he is 12th in the American League starting the day with 42 RBIs. Oh, mercy.
That's what you call looking dead red. He was looking for nothing but a fastball. and he started to move as soon as Weaver threw his arm. I mean, you can't be that far out in front of a pitch unless you're looking for a fastball.
He could have just brought the bat back, swung again.
Yeah.
Here's the 1-2 delivered to Everett. Fastball, take it inside. Weaver, pretty efficient so far in this game.
You know, a lot of people have not given Weaver, I think, the credit that maybe he deserves as a pitcher. I mean, he goes out there, he doesn't miss his turn. You know, he gives you innings over the course of the season. I mean, he may not win as much as people think he should, but he's always ready to go take the mound.
Fouled that one off his foot. He's looking for a new contract. The Dodgers have started to sew up some of their pitchers already here this season, and while they said initially they weren't going to talk to Weaver about a new deal, and now apparently they're ready to talk to him.
Yeah, well, a lot of guys that they've already signed have been on the disabled list a lot, and this guy doesn't go on the disabled list, you know.
Good reason to sign him.
Yeah, I would think so.
Well, there'll be more to be said about that here in the days to come, as they may get a deal done with Weaver, who comes in 6-6 in the 14 starts he has had this season. Bothered by the home run. He's given up at least one home run in his last 8 starts. He has given up a total of 15 homers in the 14 starts that he's had. Talking about the pitchers, there are the contract situations for Lowe, Penny, Perez.
Well, well, Lowe, of course, got a multi-year deal before the season. Penny has also had his contract extended. Perez, so now it's up to them to decide what they're going to do with Weaver.
A 3-ball, 2-strike count. And Weaver had Everett going. Now takes it full. Let's see what he comes back with. He got him on that big changeup that he fooled him with. Carl Everett's got power both sides of the plate, but especially here. And Everett fights that one off again.
Well, he came back with a breaking ball, off-speed pitch. Smart pitch there by Weaver, as long as you know you can throw a strike with it, because you do not want to walk the leadoff hitter when you have a 3-0 lead.
8 of his 9 home runs have come from this side of the plate. Everett with a 9-pitch at-bat coming up here from Weaver. And he golfs that one to second base. Jeff Kent on the quick hop. Over to Choi at first base. Everett is retired. And there's one away here in the 5th inning. So Weaver wins that battle. He is the second youngest manager on the bench in the majors. 41 years old. Ozzie Guillen, he's going to be joining us at the end of the next half inning. And I'm going to ask him about Jack McKeon, because he had a comment about Jack, the oldest manager in the majors. And as only Ozzie could. Here is Jermaine Dye. Head into a double play his first time up. Big double play. White Sox had their first 2 base runners on in that second inning, and Dye came up, hit into a double play, and that pretty much ended what could have been an offensive inning. He's homered in 3 straight games, twice in 2005. Has homered in 3 straight now, and is batting .390 in the last 16 games. Dye has had just a red-hot bat, upping his average to 260, 13 homers, and 32 runs batted in. Fights that one off, foul, 1-2.
And the interesting thing is that they say this ballpark starts to play smaller now in the summer than it did at the beginning of the season. Because remember, they hit a lot of home runs here the last few years.
I don't think most fans would put this ballpark in that category of top home run parks. What did Weaver drop down on that one?
But he hung it inside, which allowed Dye to have a pretty good swing at it.
Looked like a submarine pitcher right there. Part of this great crowd on hand here in this Sunday night here at Cellular Field. It is the 2nd best home run park in the majors, measured by combined home runs hit here compared to all other parks. 30% more here in the White Sox home than they get on the road. Coors Field, of course, is still number 1. Dye takes that one, and Weaver can't believe it. Weaver gave it the head to the sky, arms down, as Dye delivers a single with an 8-iron, I think. Now let's check in with the studio of Sports Center 30 at 30.
Thank you, Gary. NBA Finals Game 5 underway over on ABC. Detroit on top of San Antonio 15-11 as they play in the first quarter. Other stuff going on today. U.S. Open won by Michael Campbell. Takes it by 2 strokes over Tiger Woods. Campbell, first New Zealander to win a major in 42 years. Greg Biffle wins his 5th Nextel Cup Series race of the year. Takes the Batman Begins 400, now just 49 points behind Jimmy Johnson. Gary?
Dave, thanks very much. Back here in Chicago for Sunday Night Baseball. Brzezinski up, grounded out his first time up. 1 on at first, 1 away. Whatever Weaver's got on his pitches, Joe, there are a lot of these little slow rollers in the infield.
Well, the main thing he's doing, Gary, is keeping the ball down, whether it be a breaking ball or the sinker. When you get the sinker down, you're going to hit the top of that most of the time. But the curveball and his other pitches, his changeup, everything is down. And that's why he's getting these dribblers.
He's tied up these hitters. Jim Tracy is hoping, the skipper on the right, the Dodgers can get their 34th win. They dropped the game below 500 with a loss last night. Trying not to be swept in this first regular season meeting ever with the White Sox.
And the thing about the Dodgers, they started off 12-2. They're 21-32 since that time.
You've got to wonder just how many they can win. It's the longest road trip they got of the year with 13 games to be played. As we said, San Diego and Anaheim coming up on this road trip, and they leave tonight after the game. They play in San Diego tomorrow night. 0-1 count. Little looper down the left field side. Grabowski going over will have room in fair territory. Joe, I want to ask you something looking at first base with Dye. He's got an unusual stance he takes as a base runner. Do you like that or not? We'll show you what he does.
Yeah, I've watched him, over the years. I think part of it may be to protect his legs. Remember, he's had the bad legs, ankles, and he broke his shin bone. I mean, he's had some problems with his leg. And I think it's probably to take a little pressure off of them. But, I mean, it is very unusual.
Is he trying to get in a jump ability, be able to get a quick start?
Well, I think he's just trying to keep the pressure off on the crossover part.
That one down the left field line. Grabowski going over into the corner, reaching out. It's a fair ball, and it was caught.
No,
bounced over.
That cost the White Sox a run right there. Dye would have been able to score easily had that ball hit against the fence, but it hits and it bounces over the fence for a ground rule double, and that, of course, means that Dye has to go back to third base. He only gets 2 bases, as does the hitter.
Grabowski had 2 long runs on these 2 balls.
And he almost gets there. He makes a great attempt, but you can see he would not have been able to get up and throw the ball back in to keep Dye from scoring, but because it bounces over the fence, it's a ground rule double. Yeah, and he gave it a great effort.
So big play right there, one way or the other. Grady gets the double, but the White Sox don't get the run. And now the number 9 hitter, Uribe, coming up with a 3-0 lead for the Dodgers. This is where the White Sox this year have always done the right thing.
Right.
Been able to come up with the big hits. Uribe strikeout victim his first time up. Juan Uribe out in front of it. He's got 33 RBIs with a 243 batting average. 279 with runners in scoring position, so better when he's had the RBI chances. Runners at second and third, Dye and Creedy. Slider outside to him, 1-1. White Sox left a base runner at third in the second inning. This is the only other chance they've had in this ball game, and we are in the 5th. Weaver's 1-1 delivery up high, trying to get him to chase another off-speed pitch.
Well, this is a situation where if you're Weaver, you have to get Uribe out. I mean, he's a 244 hitter as compared to Posednik, who's on deck and also a left-hand hitter. So you have to make a choice. Say, one of these pitches, I'm just going to have to go after him with a fastball.
Came in and got the strike on the foul ball. 2-ball, 2-strike count.
Yeah, I think you have to do that because I mean, you definitely do not want Scott Podsednik up there with the bases loaded. You know, on a 2-1 count, if you miss, you know, then you're putting yourself in a real jam.
What do you think Phillips wanted to say to him right there, Joe? The catcher walked out with his pitcher.
Well, I think he wanted to let him know what Uribe was doing. That's a very good question. The first pitch, Uribe was bailing. It was a breaking ball. He couldn't reach it. He was sitting on the fastball right there, I think is what he wants to tell him. But if you're going to throw a breaking ball, you have to throw a strike with it.
2 ball, 2 strike count, 2 down. He sidearms it and gets him. So Weaver with 4 strikeouts, no runs, 2 hits, 2 are left on. Ozzie Guillen, who loves to talk, is going to talk with us when we come back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Dodgers lead at 3-0. Ozzie Guillen, we said earlier, 41 years old, second youngest manager. Jack McKeon, the elder statesman in the dugout. Ozzie, and I'm going to ask you, and I'm asking you this smiling now. I saw the comment you had about Jack McKeon. What did you mean when you said, yeah, Jack gets up at 6 and I'm just getting in at 6? What do you mean by that?
Hey, Jack is my buddy. I think Jack gave me a great opportunity to be in this job, and I think he did a great job with the Marlins.
Well, what do you think? I mean, do you think that your outspokenness ever has a negative effect on your team?
No, not really. I think I've been doing the same thing for 21 years. A lot of people in the baseball think I only got 2 years in the big league level. I've been dealing with the media for 20-something years. I don't think I should change because the way I am is why I got here.
That's something we like the way you are, Ozzie.
I do too.
Some people do, some people don't. They know my players like it. Okay,
thanks. Back to work,
man. Thanks.
Ozzie Guillen.
You know, I think that was a very good point. A lot of times people think, well, you know, he's only been a manager a couple of years. But guess what? Like he said, I've been in the big leagues 20-something years dealing with the media all that time. Sometimes they're going to get the quote right. Other times they're not. Sometimes people don't like what I say. Other times they do not. So, you know.
And he was like yourself, Joe, he was also a star player in the city he played in, right here in Chicago. He was someone that the press went to all the time. If you needed a quote, you went to Ozzie.
Thanks.
Right?
Exactly.
So he's used to dealing with it.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. You know, I think about the history of the game. You know, there was Leo DeRocha, Leo the Lip, they call him. I mean, Casey Stengel was always holding court.
That one taken down the left field line, way up in the air and way back in on the other side of the pole.
And I think Sparky Anderson, he reminds me a lot of Sparky. You know, people say, well, Sparky didn't ever say anything controversial or whatever, but Sparky always spoke his mind. I mean, that was the key. I mean, you may not agree with him, but you knew where he was coming from, and Ozzie's the same way. You know, look, a lot of people don't like what he says sometimes. I mean, I'm sure, and in fact, I didn't like what he said the other day if he was quoted properly, and that is that he would allow his players to cheat if they could do it without getting caught. See, I don't believe in that.
Was a manager, I guess, when you need the wins even more, you just say that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it may be okay if you think that way. I just don't think that way.
One away here, strikeout. Contreras now has 4. Signs goes down. Jason Worth will be coming to the plate. Worth had a single, an RBI in the 4th inning. He's also drawn a walk in the game. Batting at .253, 9 RBIs on the year. Contreras' fastball is there for a strike.
But the one thing he does do, he brings some excitement to it and some charisma to his job. And I like that. You know, I think, unfortunately, a lot of times we think that managers are supposed to act a certain way. But as he said, he was 21 years he was a player. He's only been a manager for 2 years. So that's not going to, you know, change who he is just because he's a manager.
What may change it is if the wins go away and you start losing some ball games, that could change.
Well, that's why I asked the question the way that I did. You know, does it ever have a negative effect on him? If you go into a losing streak, which I've already said I don't think they will because they're pitching, how will, you know, some of his quotes be, you know, a lot of guys may not like it at that point. But, you know, and in fact, Kenny Williams didn't like what he heard last week, you know, about the cheating.
1-2 delivery is to center field. Bond is in, and he's got it. And there are 2 down. We also had a chance to ask Ozzie earlier why he is so open with the media.
A lot of different people have different ways to speak himself. Not Bobby Cox, Tony La Russa, you know, Joe Torres is real. He got his own way. Real polite, real gentleman. I'm just a baseball man. And that's the way I speak my mind. That's the way I talk. If people like it, good. If they don't like it, the thing is I will tell the truth.
That's good.
Yeah, well, you know what I like? I mean, we do this weekly. We ask managers, questions, on a Saturday before our telecast. And, sometimes they want to answer certain questions, sometimes they do not. Every question you asked Ozzie, he answered it quickly, not, beating around the bush or anything. They asked him a question, and he gave it to you. So that's, I like that.
Grabowski at the plate. The other thing that's happened here, and it's been talked about in Chicago, there's been assertions that the press, White Sox press in particular, protects Ozzie. Well, there's some truth to that, but it's for a reason. You'll find writers that deal with public people. If they find those people tell the truth,
right,
and don't hide it, they will protect them.
Yeah.
And they'll know that some things that are said at the heat of the moment, and they won't repeat them. And that is a kind of protection that comes. That doesn't come to those who are trying to spin tales and tell lies.
Right.
And Ozzie, I think, does have, if that's an advantage, have an advantage, right?
And deservedly so, though.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with that. Grabowski, Contreras, the off-speed pitch floats away. 2 down, 6, nobody on. Grabowski in the ball game has struck out, hit into a double play. This ball game has been the Dodgers manufacturing runs. Worth with that RBI single in the 4th inning, and then a ground ball RBI. Hee-Seop Choi, that came in the 5th, followed by a J.D. Drew single. And the balls were not hit hard. Strike called on the outside corner. Come back here, Grabowski. 5 strikeouts for Contreras. Dad's Day. We're in Chicago. Dad's here. Wayne Gretzky. He'll be coming up.
It's all about the beer.
With Joe Morgan and Sam Ryan, I'm Gary Thorne. John Miller, night off, enjoying a graduation weekend with his son. And great to have you with us here on this Father's Day. The moon up over Cellular Field here in Chicago. The Dodgers, though, have the 3-0 lead. Scott Podsednik, top of the order, leading it off. He has been called out on strikes and flied out. It'll bring Edwards in at third base. Jeff Weaver, 1 walk and 4 strikeouts so far in the ball game, and just puts that one by him. Now they'll back it up as we get changes. Repko's come out to play in right field. Jason will take the place of Worth, who moves over to left. Jason Worth goes to left field. Grabowski comes out of the game. So defensive replacement made there by Jim Tracy. He does not want to see this lead go. This, as we said, this is a big game for the Dodgers.
Well, the Dodgers
is going to do what's got to be done.
I think the Dodgers are trying to corner the market on Jason's. They have Jason Worth, Jason Repko, Jason Grabowski, and Jason Phillips. So, I mean, they have all the Jasons right here in a row.
And Jay Tracy. A 2-ball, 2-strike count. Makes it easy for the play-by-play announcer.
Right.
Ground ball to Jason. Fly ball to Jason. Pitch to Jason. 2-ball, 2-strike count. Scott Podsednik, the 0 for 2 tonight, and he's going to loop that one out into center field, and that's going to fall for a base hit. He'll take the big turn and stay, and here we go. This is how the White Sox get it going. Sam Ryan, special guest here tonight from the ice part of the world. Sam?
Yeah, remember that part, Gary? Does this man need an introduction? The great one, Wayne Gretzky, here in the baseball stadium tonight. Wayne, you're here as part of the Prostate Cancer Foundation for Father's Day. How did you get involved with that in Major League Baseball?
Well, Michael Milken is a huge backer of prostate cancer in this country, and I'm a huge baseball fan, so I volunteered my time with my whole family. We've been to about 8 different cities in 5 days, and the overall trip's been to 30 cities in 23 days. Major League Baseball has been a huge backer of this, and we're having a great time.
So it's like you're on a road trip right now.
Yeah, we're on a road trip having fun. I got my 3 boys and my beautiful wife. It's Father's Day, and we're just having a lot of fun.
I got to ask you a little bit about, you're talking about being a baseball fan. I know you're a rotisserie guy. What White Sox do you have on your team if you have one?
Well, the guy who just got hit, Scotty Podsednik's a pretty good player, and he's a friend of mine. I'm fortunate enough to know him. I love baseball, and I've been sort of associated with the White Sox for a lot of years because their AAA team used to be in Edmonton back in '82, '83. So I used to come to old Comiskey Park a little bit. So to be here tonight in the beautiful ballpark, Mr. Reinsdorf's been a great host to us, and we're having a wonderful time.
I know there's only so much you can say about the NHL negotiations, but how optimistic are you that they can get the deal done and get the season started on time?
Well, I am. I really believe that at this point in time that the commissioner, Gary Bettman, and the union representatives Representative Bob Goodenow. They got to be getting close to a deal. I think everyone understands we want to play. We all feel like it's the best thing for the interest of our game. We can't lose any more interest in our sport. The people all across North America want to see our sport, want to see the game. The players are dying to get back out there. The fans want to see it. Ownership wants it back. We need to go to Italy. We need to be part of the Olympics again. We need to hear Gary Thorne do hockey again. We need all that back. So, you know what? We listen, last year has not been great for anybody, but it's time to move forward here, and we need to get back on the ice.
So some hope for the fans. Happy Father's Day, Wayne.
Yeah, and I want to say Happy Father's Day to Grandpa Jack, who's the biggest Dodger fan in California, and, of course, the best father of all in Canada, my dad, Walter.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Gritz. Boy, what a moment right there. Jeff Weaver, that's an error on him. More importantly now, this is the way it's been for the Dodgers forever here this year.
Well, you know, again, you got to attribute this to Scott Podsednik and the quickness. You know, if he wasn't a guy who was threat to steal bases, he wouldn't have thrown over there 3 times and attempted to throw again. I mean, he's trying to trick him and get the ball over to first base, as you can see quickly, and he twists his right ankle. He ends up, you know, hobbling away. And remember, a throw from the infield, you know, you get 2 bases, not 1. The one you're going to plus 1. But, you know,
Weaver's arguing here, I think, about why the runner's at third. Even though the ball went into the stands, Podsednik was not running. He went back to the bag.
Okay, well, I didn't.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
No. I'm saying apparently the umpires are just thinking that he did so.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, he twisted. Yeah, you could see he was up on his right toe when we showed the replay.
Listen, if he can do that after he twisted it, it must be all right.
Yeah.
Wow, that was scary. Well, the runner ends up at third base. The error charge to Weaver. So Podsednik, that's what you were talking about, Joe. You get him on base, and Lord knows what'll happen.
Well, you see all of a sudden, I mean, Weaver became concerned with Podsednik at first base because he knows that they're still going to let him run, even though they were down 3 runs. So that's what happens, and I think Jim Tracy's not convinced that he's okay.
I think he didn't throw.
Or maybe he's asking the question you're talking about.
Yeah, he's looking down. I know he was arguing about third base because he's saying, look, the runner was back on the bag. Yeah, it was an error, and it did go in the seats, but why is he getting an extra base?
All right, well, they're going to huddle. But I think they must have made that ruling beforehand.
Larry Young is the first base umpire. Marvin Hudson is the home plate umpire.
Not to cut you off here, but unless Jim Tracy's arguing that it's a balk. See, he may have been arguing that he balked before he threw to first base. Or in the process of throwing to first.
Which would be only 1 base.
1 base, exactly.
All right, Joe, you make the call. Let's look. We'll look at it again and see what you think.
Well, let's see if he... Well, no, I don't think that can be called a balk. And so it's going to stand. See, I don't think that can be called a balk.
I agree with you.
Yeah, he didn't stop his motion. He didn't hesitate. It was all in one motion. He whirled and threw it into the stands.
And fortunately, looks like he is okay.
But I'm like you. I mean, he didn't throw any practice, and you have that opportunity to do so if you wanted to.
Well, the Dodgers have the 3-0 lead here in the 6th inning. Willie Harris is up. He has grounded out twice, 0 for his last 14. He's got a runner at third, batting in the number 2 spot and playing at second base, and he will take the strike. So Harris gets the RBI chance here and a chance for the White Sox to get on the board. With Podsednik picking up the base hit and then the error that moved him all the way over to third. Weaver will stay working out of the stretch. And that one lined to the gap. That's going to fall in for a base hit. That will score 1. Harris on his way to second base. Repko had trouble handling it. RBI double.
But that was a very nice play by Repko out there to cut that ball off. Otherwise, Harris would have had an easy triple if that ball goes through. So very good job there by Repko just to hold him to a double.
And here you see the White Sox the way they've been all year.
See, he's running that ball. I mean, he cuts it off. It looked like it maybe bounced back towards him, but I mean, he got over there and knocked it down and kept the ball from going to the wall because, again, Willie Harris would have been standing on third easily.
They've called it a single and an error. That's a tough error.
That's not correct. I mean, he was going to get a double out of that no matter what.
Give him an RBI.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Runner on at second base now as the White Sox take advantage.
Maybe
Pasetnik getting on.
Maybe Carl Everett was right.
You're still doubting that, aren't you? I can tell. Well,
I mean the 99% that doesn't, you know.
Rowan hitting at 280. Carl, one of the cheerleaders now for the White Sox here. Rowan, big base hit last night, continued his hit streak to 4 games as he got the hit that tied the ball game up, sets the stage for the home run last night by Pierzynski that won it with Rowan on base. He has grounded out twice in this game. Runner at second with a good lead. Breaking ball, he thought about it. Weaver, a long stare into the Dodger dugout after he delivered that pitch, and Phillips is going to go out to see if he's all right. They've got the bullpen warming up since he twisted his ankle on that delivery. They would like to leave Weaver in because he's been so effective in the ball game until that moment when the ankle twisted. He is behind on the count here, though, 3-0 with Paul Konerko, the cleanup batter, on deck. Rowan will take the fastball for a strike. The other thing that's happening here on the south side, both for the players and the fans, they expect this. They expect it. Expect to win, expect the White Sox to come back. Winning one last at bat last night. You start building that kind of a feeling. It's called confidence in sports. 3-1 delivery. Rowan takes that one to center field. Got a lot of it. J.D. Drew back looking up and hauls it in. Runner will tag, and Harris will move over to third base. Long fly ball out. Rowan trying to be a hero tonight. He certainly was last night. In the 9th inning, they needed it. They were down to their last strike to work with a couple of times. They were able to pick up the base hit that would bring that tying run home. Willie Harris came on to score, and then the blast. Watch the flip of the bat. 2-run homer, and they won it. 5-3.
Well, the one thing about the White Sox, and when you talk to Kenny Williams, he really emphasized that point. They have more than one way to score runs. Well, they don't have to wait for the big inning, even though they were down 3-0. They can manufacture runs, and they can just run the bases well. They just put pressure on them.
Paul Lee is the chant. You may have noticed some signs when we were showing you some of the fans. We love Paulie's signs. Paul Konerko. Everett on deck. He's available on the bench. Big Frank. The big hurt. That's taken down low. Konerko has grounded out and walked. One of the reasons Ozzie Guillenjo would have Frank Thomas pick up the bat is just to let the other dugout know, if you're going to make a change in pitchers, just remember who I got over here.
Well, I think one of the problems here is Weaver does not want to throw Konerko a fastball. I mean, he's a good fastball hitter, so he's nibbling with the fastball so far in this at bat. There's an off-speed pitch.
In the hole, it's Turris. Runner coming, and the throw is going to be there in time. But Harris scores, Konerko an RBI, and it's a 1-run game, 3-2 Dodgers.
Well, that was an interesting at bat because he did not want to throw a fastball to Konerko, and he didn't. I mean, 2-0, he threw him a changeup, and Konerko was out in front of it, but he still gets the job done. I mean, you can watch how certain pitchers are afraid of certain pitches to certain hitters. And that's an off-speed pitch. That's why he was able to go up and get it and pull it. Otherwise, he may not have handled that pitch that well.
48 RBIs now for Konerko. Here's Carl Everett. Takes it up high for a ball, so the White Sox have battled back. They had picked up a single in the 2nd inning by Carl Everett. They did not get another hit till 1 out in the 5th inning. He could not score, leaving a couple on. But here in the 6th inning, it's been Pasetnik getting on with that leadoff single, then the error on Weaver when he twisted his ankle on the throw to first. Pasetnik went to third. Willie Harris picking up an RBI with a single, went to second on the error, charged to Repko. And Konerko got him home on the ground ball after Harris tagged up on a deep fly ball and went to third. So these are all the things. There's not a lot of big-time excitement in there, is there? But you got runs.
But they do what they're supposed to do. They get a runner on and they move him around. Of course, Jeff Weaver helped, but the threat is what made Jeff Weaver, throw the ball into the stands. The threat of Posednik stealing a base.
1 ball, 2 strike count, 2 down. Everett is singled. 1 for 2. Towering pop-up, third base side. Edwards. He's got it. That will do it. But in the 6th, couple of runs in, 2 hits, 2 errors. Dodgers lead cut to 1. There's your line through the 6 innings played. 3-5-2 for the Dodgers. 2-5-0 for the White Sox. White Sox have won the first 2 games of this series in interleague play against L.A. First ball hitting, that'll be foul back. Jason Phillips leading it off. Walked and scored in the 5th and is hit into a fielder's choice. And Weaver down there at the end of the dugout. See whether or not he comes back. They've had the bullpen ready, either because of the ankle or just because of the time in the ball game. 1 ball, 1 strike count. Still shaking his head down there. Just can't believe what went on in that last inning. 2 runs scored, 1 of those unearned. Phillips hitting at .266, takes that to right field, an Adam ball up. Dies the one it's at. One away here in the 7th inning. Our Goodyear game track.
Well,
there's the error.
Yeah, and again, it was caused by the speed of Posednik. And this is called a single and an error, which I've never understood because, he's the fastest guy on the team. And Konerko does the job by putting the ball in play with a runner at third and gets the run home. And what's funny is these guys, the White Sox, have only twice this whole season scored 5 or more runs in 1 inning. That tells you that they get the job done. They're last in the major leagues in that category, yet they have the best record in the game. So it tells you that they work at scoring runs in different manners rather than always waiting for the big inning. And we've seen that here. They've been able to get back in this ball game.
I just think that's an amazing number.
Yeah, it is.
You're talking about the winningest team in the majors, 23 games over 500, and they've only had 2 games where they've had 5 or more runs in an inning.
And we've had games where the team scored 10 runs in the 1st inning several times this year.
I mean, that's just that's phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, it shows that their focus is on putting the ball in play, putting the runners on, and moving them along. So. I think it's great.
I do too. Great for baseball. It's got everybody looking, seeing how they're doing it. 2004, 23 times. He was tied for 4th most in the majors. Twice this year, the fewest in the majors. 5 runs or more in an inning.
Well, and I think a lot of that you can attribute to the fact that Carlos Lee is no longer here, because he was a big play guy. He would drive in 3 runs a lot of times with 1 swing. So and so they went in a different direction. And I like what I saw. I saw a quote from Kenny Williams saying that, he told the Brewers, you're getting an all-star caliber player. He wasn't down on Carlos Lee. He was just trying to change the makeup of this ball club. And Carlos Lee is an all-star.
He's an all-star.
Definitely, proven, Kenny Williams to be correct. And he's having a fantastic season with the Brewers.
And yet through all of that, Joe, we note Chicago's 3rd in the American League in home runs.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's not as though they've gone away.
No, and that's the point. Is when that's why he doesn't want to call it small ball. He said, we're not playing small ball. We're playing smart ball because we will still hit some balls out of the ballpark. We're still going to get some extra base hits. We're still going to do all the things that some of the other teams do, but we're going to give ourselves another opportunity to score runs, a different way. And obviously it has worked. But you have to have the right manager to do that as well.
That one's slow roller, third base. Joe Curdy's got a bare-handed. Not going to get there in time. Mike Edwards, his 2nd hit, 2 singles, 2 for 3 for Edwards. So he's on at first base with 1 down here in the 7th inning.
What I was saying was you have to have a manager that believes in that, because a lot of managers have a tendency to want to wait for the big inning or don't want to do anything to hurt the big inning. But Ozzie wasn't that type of player. You know, he was a speed guy. He ran the bases well. He bunted. He did everything to win games. And I think that's carried over. You know, we always say that a manager's personality eventually filtrates into the, you know, the team. And I think that's what Ozzie has done here. And it's a mentality that you play with.
Cesar, it's Turris at the plate. Runner on at first. Leadoff batter takes a strike. And it would make sense, Joe, because Ozzie, some of his heroes, Louis Aparicio,
right,
that he grew up watching play with the White Sox, with Nellie Fox and the Go-Go Sox, played that kind of ball, and those were people that he very much admired.
And exactly, but again, I think it's a mentality. It permeates through the whole team. For instance, you know, we saw the Dodgers not be able to score on a single from second base. That will not happen to the White Sox because everyone is in the right mental frame of mind. When I'm on second base hit, I'm going to score. And all of that goes with, you know, coming from the manager, and it starts right there by him saying, this is the way we're going to play. I want you to be aggressive. And I think that's what you see here.
And the players have bought into that.
Right.
With the White Sox, that doesn't necessarily happen. And one of the reasons they have is because all of them say, and Ozzie himself says, I am a player's manager.
Yeah.
I will protect my players. And he has done that. 0-2 count. Cesar Turris waiting. Taken up high, leadoff batter 0 for 2 and a sacrifice. He helped set up 2 runs in the 5th inning with his bunt. A lot of great shortstops have come out of Venezuela. One of them's on the bench managing here for the White Sox. Louis Aparicio, Dave Concepcion, Ozzie Guillen in there, Omar Vizquel, of course, Cesar Turris, who's at the plate right now. I mean, those are some tremendous baseball players and all great shortstops. Bad cut right there. He chased one. 5th strikeout. Jose Contreras and a big one. 2 down here in the 7th inning.
Well, let's take a look at the Nissan K zone and see if you were correct that he went out of the zone. I thought he did as well, but let's see. The Nissan K zone says you're correct. Out of the strike zone.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. You have to be careful, though, before you see the K zone.
I understand that.
Yeah.
We count on the truck to preview it so it shows we're right.
Okay.
Huh? This is all in hindsight now. We're not looking to make mistakes here. We can do that on our own. Aesop Choi, runner on at first base, 2 down. Mike Edwards had the single. He's still there. Now he's running. Here's the throw. One hopper and a bounce away. It'll be a stolen base.
And see, I like that if you're the Dodgers. He's not holding anybody on, so why don't you just take off? I mean, you should just take off. It's a 1-run ball game now. You better try to get another run any way you can. And, I mean, again, Contreras is not as concerned with the base runner as maybe he should be. And it forces Pierzynski to come up and try to make a great throw. And he bounces it in front of Uribe, and obviously he's not going to be able to tag the runner out. So I think that's a smart play if you're the Dodgers.
Aesop Choi's got a chance now. Pick up an RBI. He has one on a ground ball out. He is 0 for 3 officially at the plate in this game. He's got 30 RBIs on the season. 2 down, 1-0 count. Mike Edwards will get a good lead at second base. Aesop Choi is trying to turn his year around after a disastrous ending last year. First, going into the All-Star game, he was hitting .275 at 14 home runs. After the All-Star game, he hit an incredible .161 and did not have a home run.
Yeah, that's the key factor, no home runs.
And he had only 1 start the last month of the season. That's how bad it got. Choi likes to crowd that plate. Contreras wants to move him off and does, but he falls behind here 3-0.
Well, I think what they try to do, he has a hole. The holes in his at bats are fastball in, changeups out over the plate. He doesn't handle off-speed pitches well, and the fastball's in. There's Derek Lowe conversing with Weaver. Then they're similar, you know, in that they both use the sinker as, you know, their out pitch.
Rio delivery and takes it up high. So 4 straight out of the strike zone. Contreras surrenders the free pass, and that'll put runners on at first and second with 2 down, and that will bring a visit to the mound by the skipper to find out what's going on here.
Well, I think that, you know, he's got the lefty warming up in the bullpen. I think he's going to bring him. Yeah.
So the move has been made. Jose Contreras, who's 3-3 on the year, will be responsible for the 2 base runners. Are in the 7th inning with 2 down. There are the two starters and the numbers that they have put up on the night. Whether Weaver comes back, we'll see. Contreras is done, 102 pitches. Responsible for the 2 base runners. Damaso Marti comes on in relief to try and get that final out here in the 7th inning. The White Sox 2 runs in the 6th had cut the Dodger lead to 1. And now Edwards is on his second base. He had a single. Aesop Choi with the walks on at first. And a fastball strike taken by J.D. Drew, who has had a ton of problems picking up RBIs in these situations.
Yeah.
Marte's 31st appearance. Drew will take it for a strike. 1-2. Drew hitting just .204 with runners in scoring position, nowhere near the .279 mark that he has overall.
And I would bet, just watching the approach, is much lower against left-handed pitching.
They're trying to get him to chase one away. Marte's delivery way outstride the strike zone that time. Dodgers getting the matchup they want here with a left-hander against left-hander. Marte swings that one way outside and takes the count full.
And see, that's where guys get in trouble. If I was going to question, I'd question the pitch. He takes 2 fastballs away. You're missing with the curveball. You can't throw a strike with it. Now everybody in the ballpark knows a fastball is coming. You can't throw another curveball because you haven't been able to get it over the plate.
233 off left-handers, Joe. That's what he's hitting. And he blew it by him.
Well, he got J.D. to go out of the strike zone, so.
Marte picks up the strikeout. No runs, 1 hit. Base runner left on. 7th inning. 7th inning stretch time here at U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, a good one. The Dodgers trying to avoid the sweep, have the 3-2 lead. And Dye will be leading it off 0 for 2. 37-year-old right-hander out of the bullpen for the Dodgers. Dye with a single in the 5th inning. Hit into a double play. First time up. Breaking ball taken outside.
And Carrera, that's his specialty, breaking balls and change-ups. He will try to get ahead of you as he did with Dye with the fastball, and then he'll throw a lot of off-speed pitches.
Dye, as we mentioned earlier, is one of the red-hot hitters in this lineup. 13 home runs on the year. Weaver out of the ball game with a chance to win it for the Dodgers. Fastball just missed, a little bit down and away. 2-ball, 1-strike count. Weaver 7, gave up 2 runs, 1 earned, 5 hits, walked 1, struck out 4. He is 6-6 coming into the game. Carrera will now try and maintain that Dodger 1-run lead. 2-1 delivery off speed. First base. Choi's got it. And Dye is retired. 1 away in the bottom half of the 7th inning. These two teams meeting. 1959 World Series. Dodgers, White Sox. This was game 1. White Sox winning it 11-0. Would prove to be their last World Series win in Chicago. Ted Kluszewski, big 2 for 4, 2 home runs, 5 RBI day. Dodgers went on to win the series 4-2. Larry Sherry had a couple of wins, 2 saves, MVP honors.
And you know what? I'm a real big fan of the 59 Sox. Nellie Fox, when I was a kid, he was one of my idols. And I grew up and got a chance to play on the same team with him. He was a player coach my rookie year in Houston. And not only did he teach me how to play, he taught me how to be a big leaguer. So I'm very partial to Nellie Fox. Then I got traded to Cincinnati, and my hitting instructor was Ted Kluszewski. He took me from just a pretty good hitter to being an MVP in the league. So both of those guys that were on that 59 team had a big influence on my success as a Major League Baseball player, and especially Nellie Fox. I was with him for such a long time, and we were very close. And of course, he was the second baseman.
Yep. Jimmy used ever take that big bat he used?
Yeah, that's what I used when I was a kid. I used Jackie Robinson's bat and Nellie Fox. They were both very similar, bottle bats, and that's what I used as a kid, you know. And then when I got to the big leagues, I used it until like I went over for about 15, and then I changed to one of those thin-handle bats. But he's the reason that I did this, Nellie Fox. Yeah, he's the reason that I did it. We talked about it one day, and I was struggling. We were in batting practice. He said, we got to get the ball out in the air. So he said, you know, as most people who play golf know, if you keep your elbow in, it gets the ball in the air. So we wanted to remind me to get my elbow away, and Nellie Fox made the suggestion, let's do it. So we did it in batting practice, and it worked, and then it worked in a couple of times in the game, so it was there forever. But
show me that flipper again.
Oh, it doesn't work now.
Doesn't work now?
It doesn't work now.
You don't have a bat in your hand, that's all. Brzezinski up, and he reached for that one. Grounds at the second base where Kent's got it and gets the out. Now, how about, it's interesting, Joe, that you with Ted Kluszewski, I mean, it was known as Big Clue.
Yeah.
That's an interesting batting instructor for you to have. The White Sox first World Series since 1919 came in that Dodger series in '59. Larry Sherry, Ted Kluszewski, big parts to it. White Sox had 2 steals, 6 games. They've not returned to the series since. Kluszewski was known for hitting home runs.
Yeah, but you know what was great about Ted? He adapted to your style, whatever you, and he taught you from that perspective. I mean, he worked with Johnny Bench, Tony Perez on their.
That one drilled to center field, turned the wrong way, and still makes the catch. J.D. Drew, he's played a lot of center field. Joe Creedy got a lot of that one. 1-2-3 inning in the 7th. Dodgers up by 1. Well, here on ESPN, Chicago, the White Sox, U.S. Cellular Field, the site, the sweep. Holy moly, maybe. They're down by 1 right now. White Sox fans hoping they can win 3 in a row against the Dodgers. But the Dodgers have led throughout this ball game. 3 runs, 6 hits, a couple of errors. White Sox 2 runs, 5 hits, and no errors. White Sox waited till the 6th inning in order to pick up a couple of runs after the Dodgers had got 1 in the 4th. RBI by Jason Worth, and then in the 5th inning, Hee-Seop Choi and J.D. Drew had RBIs. Polite's out of the bullpen now. Is this one the 2 starters both gone? Marte came out and worked just a 1/3 of an inning in that 7th inning and struck out the only batter he faced, leaving 2 on. Jeff Kent.
And Polite is a hard thrower. I mean, he throws the ball hard, so you can see Jeff Kent gearing up there and took the big swing on that fastball.
Kent's going to like this a lot more than
yeah
those who throw the off-speed pitches. Sanchez getting ready in the bullpen. Of course, the bullpen situation in a state of flux for the Dodgers. Swung on and missed. Then they've lost their closer. Gagne's down again. We'll find out more this week about what his status is going to be, as he'll have another review coming up this week. Jeff Kent came around to score when he got that walk in the 4th inning. Powering pop-up. Brzezinski. Almost ran out of room, but he had enough. Now let's check in. Go to our studio at Sports Center 30 at 30.
Thanks, Gary. Dave Rebson with you. NBA Finals tied at 2 games apiece. Spurs and Pistons. Tony Parker, the jumper here, puts the Spurs up by 2. Tied at 42 at the break on ABC. Parker with a dozen. No assists, though, in the first half. Michael Campbell wins his first major. Takes the U.S. Open by 2 shots over Tiger Woods. First New Zealander to win a major in 42 years. Full details on SportsCenter after the game. Gary?
All right, Dave, thanks very much. We welcome those who may have been watching some basketball. The NBA's here joining us at the half.
Well, he said the first New Zealander to win in whatever, 50-something. You know who the first one was?
Who was it?
You don't know?
No, I don't know.
Left-hander.
You what?
Bob Charles.
Who told you that? Did you know that?
I mean, I watched
Did
golf.
you know that?
Oh, yes,
okay.
I did.
Okay, I was just checking.
Yeah, Bob Charles.
I got to know.
Yeah.
Signs is up.
Oh, let me finish my Kluszewski thing.
Oh, yeah.
You asked me the question.
Yeah.
He would work with what your strengths were. He'd take Bench and work one way, Perez work his way, Rose another way, and me. He worked with every one of us, and he was actually...
Rebate. 2 down.
He was one of the first, hitting instructors to use video. I mean, it was crude compared to what they have today, but he would, it was all on VHS, and what would happen is you couldn't see it that day, but the next day you come in, he had already cut off your forward bats, put them together, the other guy's forward bats, so you could come in before the game and watch them, and he'd go over it with you, and that was what he used to keep you out of a slump, and it really worked. I mean, he was fantastic as a hitting instructor.
Baseball's first film editor.
Yeah, he was.
That's a lot of work.
Exactly.
Cut those things up. Now they're easy to edit electronically,
yeah.
everybody uses. Ted Kluszewski had a great career, 298 career batting average. He had 279 home runs. And one of the amazing things that day and age, power hitters took pride in not striking out. He never struck out more than 40 times in a season.
And he hit, I mean, he was a 300 hitter several occasions, so it wasn't just a power hitter. I mean, he could hit the ball out of the ballpark, but he could also hit for an average.
Falling over the plate on that one. Tell us about the jerseys, too, because I remember as a kid, Big Clue was one of my favorites. They had to design a jersey for him.
Yeah. Well, he cut the underarm out, so it just, you know, to give him more room because his arms were so huge. And someone was smart enough to design a uniform without the sleeveless uniform, and they were very attractive. I still like that look.
Just missing outside, talking about big Ted Kluszewski. This was in game 1. See that jersey? He got a couple of home runs. He was just a big power hitter, but also could hit for average and drive the ball. 5 RBI game in that first game against the White Sox in that '59 World Series. Jason Worth, 2 down, nobody on, 1-2 count on him. Thought about it, stays away, and a 2-ball, 2-strike count. You know, the Dodgers dearly want to add after what happened last night. You're never going to be comfortable now with this 1-run lead against the White Sox. They came back and won it in the 9th inning. And the Dodgers had as much as a 3-run lead in this game, and now it's 1. Jason Worth, 2-2 delivery to him. Got him. So that's a 1-2-3 inning in the 8th. Little discussion between home plate umpire and pitcher and base coaches. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, a Dad's Day version presented by Bank of America. What a way to celebrate. Neither youngsters nor dads will forget days at the ballpark. And that's what has kept this great game going. Dad's bringing the kids. And some excitement. You can feel it ripple. He is still the big name in this city. The big Hurt's going to get a big ovation. Sanchez pitching.
And that's good to see because, you know, Frank has been hurt the last couple of years in and out of the lineup, but their fans show their appreciation for his entire career. And that's why I say it is a problem. They can say it's not, but there is a problem when you have Everett and Frank Thomas.
Sanchez, who worked last night and sparkled in 2 innings of relief work. Jim Tracy wasn't sure he was going to use him in this game, talking with him prior to the game, but he wants this victory. And the right-hander's out there.
And I'm sure Sanchez told him that he was okay.
Yep.
You know, they go down and throw either before the game or, you know, when you warm up a little bit to find out how you feel on that particular night.
5 of the 8 hits this season, home runs. 28 at-bats, they've come in. 1 here would tie it. Pitch on the outside corner. 2-ball, 1-strike count. Thomas not chasing, gritting his teeth, as is his manager about the call.
That I can see why he doesn't agree with that call.
Can't hit it, not going to swing at it. That one way outside, and a 3-ball, 1-strike count on Thomas. Thomas and Kyle Everett being rotated on no particular basis in that designated hitter role. Kyle Everett is already in this game as the DH. Thomas is hitting for Uribe, the shortstop, in the number 9 spot. With Sudnick on deck. 3-1 is outside. He walked him. There was a fear factor there.
Well, obviously you're going to have a pinch runner for Frank, who has been struggling with a hamstring as well as the ankle injury that kept him out most of the first part of the season.
Pablo Osuna will come on to run for Thomas. That's another of the problems when you got that kind of a bat, Joe. That's it. He's done now.
Yeah.
Can't use him again. He can't get another plate appearance. As much as you might want him in that lineup later. So the pinch hit roll, he gets a walk. Now Posednik, who kicked off the 6th inning with a single. Weaver kept throwing balls to first and finally twisted his ankle, got charged with an error that let Posednik go to third, and he came home on a Willie Harris base hit.
And what Sanchez did there, he got ready to throw and then stepped off. He was trying to see if Posednik was going to give away whether he was going to square around and sacrifice or not. You know, the Dodgers are playing like they think he's going to sacrifice.
Nobody out here. Potential tying run on at first base. He does. He got a chance at second. Nope. Going to go to first. Look out! He's safe. He thought he had the bag. Jeff Kent, the second baseman, was blocked by Hee-Seop Choi. He still came up with a ball, but first base umpire Larry Young said he was not on the bag, or the runner had beaten the throw.
Well, they had some confusion at first base, and that caused Phillips not to give his best throw to first base. He didn't know who he was throwing to. Hee-Seop Choi ducked, but as you said, Jeff Kent was kind of blocked off.
Larry Young, first base umpire. Jim Tracy's furious, and so was Jeff Kent.
Well, Tracy's reacting to Kent because Kent's the one that knows whether he was on the bag or not, because it's very difficult. Now, see, Choi, he should just get down. Instead, he starts back. Now he's in between both Jeff Kent and Phillips, so Phillips doesn't throw the ball. I mean, if he's not in the way, it appears there that Jeff Kent may have had his foot on the bag. His toe, it looked like his toe was on the bag. We'll take a look here. He's definitely, his toe is on the bag right there. So I can see why he is, you know, he was upset, because he made a heck of a play just to catch the ball, but he was able to keep his foot on the bag. But that was a very, you know, they messed it up. The Dodgers
created a problem.
Yeah, created the problem, and they didn't get the call, and it wasn't like it was obvious, because we showed it in slow motion, but it wasn't obvious. It appeared, you know, and
don't ever say Jeff Kent doesn't care. There are a lot of people who question sometimes Jeff Kent and the way he plays, maybe defensively, and he's not exactly an outgoing person with the press. But I'm telling you something, there's nobody more competitive in Major League Baseball than Jeff Kent. He wants wins.
And I mean, he made a great play just to catch the ball. You know, and I think that was part of, you know, the problem. Again, you know, lack of communication. Hee-Seop Choi, you either have to get back to the bag quickly and give the catcher a target, or you have to get down. And he did neither.
So Kent's great play will go for naught. Runners on at first and second base. There's nobody out. It's a sacrifice and an error charged on Phillips on the throw. It had to be that way because Larry Young, the umpire, called the play as Kent being off the bag. Now Harris is going to try and move these runners up to second and third with nobody out.
And obviously, if you're Harris, you're going to try to bunt the ball to the third baseman. You're going to try to force Brown to come in and make the play. Edwards, I'm sorry. He's going to try to bunt the ball in here. You know, Hee-Seop Choi is already in. If you go this way, you have to deaden the ball. This way, you bunt it sharply, force him to come in and field it, and that will execute the sacrifice perfectly.
Single his last time up. He squares around early. A long look at second, and they'll throw one there. Osuna gets back in time. Harris trying to lay down the first bunt. Ozzie Guillen, the manager, watching it.
Well, he's saying not too hard. Just push it down there. That's what he was trying to say, because what happened on the first one, Harris was trying to push it sharply down the third baseline. He's saying just get it down. You got speed at second.
Choi is way in at first, Joe.
Yeah, you can't go to first base. But the point is, you have a fast base runner at second. You do not have to make a perfect bunt. That's what Ozzie's saying to him. You know, normally you want to push it sharply enough that the third baseman has to come in and field it. But what he's saying, we have speed on the bases. Just get the bunt down.
Came inside to him. Look out. Got a chance at second. Blocked. Phillips' throw was going to hop, as Osuna had gotten a little bit off the bag there, and a good play by Torres, who just played goalie right there. Wayne Gretzky would have been proud of him. He was just blocking. They don't let it go through to center.
Right. You got to have a Ivan Rodriguez or a really strong arm to make this throw. I mean, you got to get rid of it quickly, and that's not an easy throw for a catcher without him stepping to throw to second.
1-1 strike count. Harris has already squared. He drops it. Got a chance. And no. Got to go to first. Sacrifice. Kent over there. Phillips the throw.
Well, that's what Ozzie Guillen was saying. You do not have to make a perfect bunt. Just get the ball down, and we have speed already on the bases. They're not going to be able to go to third base. Well, when the ball is bunted, the third baseman should just start back to the bag. He should just start back to the bag because he's not going to come in to get this. So it's really, yeah, there's no chance for anybody to do anything here anyway. I mean, that's just an excellent play bunt with the speed that they had it on first and second. They didn't have a chance to do anything but take the out at first base.
This is a smart ball rally going on right now for the White Sox. A walk and 2 sacrifices have created this opportunity. There has been an error charge and a tough one. An incredible number. 74% of the innings with a sac bunt, they score. Well, they've got 2 of them in this inning. So they should get 2 runs, right? 1 down. Sanchez pitch is taken for a strike. Number 3 hitter, Aaron Rowand up. He has gone 0 for 3 in this ball game.
And one thing to remember, just because you square around and bunt doesn't mean that they're going to get an out. You put pressure on the defense, as we saw here, and they only got 2 bunts and only 1 time where they recorded as an out. So it's not always giving a runner up an out of.
378 with runners in scoring position. Add to it, they've got one of those 2. Here comes Pasetnik to the plate, and the White Sox have taken the lead 4-3.
And again, you see the difference in the way that they play the game. I mean, he's going to, you know, Pasetnik's going to score because of his speed, but anyone else out there would have scored as well. That's the way the White Sox play. Their mentality is that way. And, you know, a lot of teams would not have bunted in this situation. As you see, Rowan just rakes this fastball. It's down and in, and he rakes it down the left field line. And there you see Osuna's obviously going to score easily, but here comes Pasetnik. He's just flying around the bases, no throw even to the plate.
Their best hitter with runners in scoring position is that man right there. Rowan with a 378 mark has added to it. He's got a 5-game hit streak now, and the 2 RBIs make it a 4-3 White Sox lead. It is their first lead of the game.
Well, the one thing to always remember, when you have a lead and they're giving you an out, you take that out. You make sure you get the out. They did not do it, so they end up bunting again, moving other runners in this position. So you have to just, it's an unbelievable thing they got going here in Chicago.
It is.
They're playing the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Here is Konerko. And Joe, what you're saying, also, when you play that way, the teams you play against have to play solid, fundamental baseball.
It puts pressure on the defense. It makes them have to make the plays perfectly, and if they're not able to do it, then, you know,
it costs you runs.
It costs you runs in their advantage.
Rowan down at first base. Kent has got to be still smarting over that play at first, where it looked like he'd gotten it out and didn't. Inside 3-0.
But then again, they did not handle it properly. So, you know, you can't blame everything on the umpire. If they handle the play properly, it would have been a routine play.
Would have been an easy throw for Phillips instead of trying to throw behind Aesop Choi.
Trying to miss Aesop Choi. He's trying to miss him.
Yeah, he did, but didn't get what he wanted. Konerko's got a 3-0 count with a runner at first, and he'll take the fastball for a strike. So Sanchez in relief here in this inning, and he didn't help the cause. He started this thing out with a walk. Another problem. Coming out of the bullpen especially, you cannot give walks to the leadoff batter. He had 2 great innings last night for Jim Tracy, but tonight leadoff walk has already scored. 3-1 delivery. Konerko jumping on it,
and that's what he wanted. He's been waiting for that fastball in the middle of the plate all night. He finally got one. He fouled it back. Jeff Weaver stayed away from that. He was not going to let him have a fastball that he could handle. And you can see Ozzie a little upset because he says he's got his pitch right there. He had a good swing, but he fouled it back.
Do you only get, as we like to say a lot up here in the booth, one good pitch?
Against very good pitchers, you get one pitch. But if, against an average pitcher, I think you might get two pitches.
See if Konerko gets another one. We'll have to wait.
But I think in this situation with the bases, with 3-2 count and a runner going to break, he's going to try to throw a strike. So we'll see what happens. He may get another fastball there. But, you know, that's always been the theory. If you're hitting against some great pitchers, you know, the Bob Gibson and so forth of the world, you're going to get one pitch. You're not going to get 2 or 3 and one at bat. And sometimes you only get one a game.
What a game. 3-ball, 2-strike count. Rowan at first base being held. 1 away. Runner goes on 3-2. Struck him out. Can they get 2? The tag in time as Jason Phillips puts it on. But a couple of big runs in, and the White Sox have taken the lead 4-3. For excellence, Indians. They have swept the D-backs. Nice straight win. Ken Griffey, a game winner. 3-run homer in the 8th inning against Atlanta. Matt Clement. Oh my gosh, the Red Sox got one there. 7 innings, 3 hits, 9 strikeouts, win against the Pirates. Dustin Hermanson is on in relief. We go to the 9th inning. The Los Angeles Dodgers lost it in the bottom of the 9th last night. First time that had happened to them this season. Now they've fallen behind in the 8th. Repko up, takes the pitch up high.
Well, Hermanson got off to a great start. I mean, he wasn't even scored upon for like 16 innings. He has struggled of late, so, you know, he hasn't been automatic in the last couple of weeks.
15 out of 16 in saves. Jason Repko came on defensively, gets his first chance here, pitches up high. We're in the 9th inning, and the count goes to 3-0. Osuna stays on and plays short. Uribe out of there. Strike in the inside corner. Repko trying to draw the walk here. Get that potential tying run on with nobody out in the 9th inning. The White Sox trying to get their 8th win when they have trailed after 7 innings. And Hermanson comes back to make it 3-2. Dodgers had a 3-0 lead going into the bottom of the 6th inning, and the White Sox got their first 2 runs. Repko fouls it back. Now they have battled back, 2 in the 6th, 2 in the 8th. Each team with 6 hits. Dodgers have made costly mistakes with 3 errors on the board. Two unearned runs have been scored by the Sox, and that obviously is the difference in the ball game. Against San Diego, June 11, last time out. 2 runs, 4 hits, a walk, and no strikeouts. June 11. Hermanson trying to make sure that doesn't happen again here. Repko takes that one to left field. It is deep down near the fair pole, curving. Foul ball.
Well, he got that pitch up, and I mean, he turned on it a little too quickly if you're a Dodger fan. It's a high pitch, and he just turns on it. Just a little bit out in front of it.
It's a pretty powerful swing right there. Only a .216 average, 5 home runs. Rupp goes on. He draws the walk to lead off the 9th inning. For Ozzie in the last inning, it's what he's been watching all year. Guys who know how to bunt, lay him down, get it done. Posednik, the throw. Kent thought he had the bag. It would have gotten the out. And then in between innings, Joe.
Well, Jeff, Kent is basically saying either you have to get back to the bag or get out of the way. And he did neither. And therefore, it was no. So you don't see him talking to Jason Phillips because it wasn't Phillips' fault. And of course, you know, as I said earlier, you just have to get out of the way. And we could see Jason Phillips actually short on the ball. They're lucky it didn't go down the line because of a great play by Kent. But, you know, it still put him in a bad situation.
Now it'll be Jason Phillips coming to the plate. Runner on at first base. How are the Dodgers going to play this? A chopper right back to the mound. Hermanson's got one. Relay Osuna, two.
Well, a lot of people may say, well, you know, we saw the White Sox bunt. Why didn't the Dodgers bunt? Well, I'm not going to criticize them for not bunting simply because you're on the road and you don't play for ties generally on the road. Now, if some things are going wrong, somebody's shutting you out, then you may do that. But, you know, I don't think that was actually a sacrifice situation. I mean, you could do it, but I just don't, you know, it's just a matter of opinion there. And I think Jim Tracy decided he wanted to let it go because he didn't want to play for the tie. They're trying to get one run in that situation.
Now one out to work with as Phillips goes back to the bench. Mike Edwards. He's had a 2 for 3, couple of singles and a run scored. White Sox 1 out away from sweeping the Dodgers.
And how they've done it is the key. Yeah. I mean, this shows you that's why they're such a good team. You know, good teams know how to win. And you look over the course of the season, teams that win the one-run ball games are usually the ones up at the top because they find a way to get the extra run that they need or the run that they need to tie the game to extend the game. They know what they're doing. And again, you know, we talked about Billy Ball in the past. Yeah. This is Ozzie Ball that they're playing here in Chicago.
Dodgers have lost 5 in a row in this 13-game road trip. This would be their 6th if they do not come back. For Jim Tracy, it would be another devastating loss because they had that lead and couldn't hang on to it despite an outstanding start by Jeff Weaver.
And they did miss Gagne tonight.
Yes, they did. Sox can gain a game on the Twins. That one towards second base. Harris up with it, has time, almost threw it away. Konerko goes over to get it. Harris sliding and getting up very slowly at second base. In fact, not getting up at all. That'll be a hit.
And the reason I say they missed Gagne, of course, they wouldn't have been a save situation, but they could have used Brazoban in the 8th inning to save, you know, Gagne for the 9th if it was that way. But what happens when you don't have Gagne, everyone else has to back up a little bit. So the guy who used to come in the 8th was Brazoban, and they had to bring Sanchez in, even though he pitched 2 innings last night. So that there has been a definite effect by the loss of Gagne.
Cesar at Torres. Runner on at first base. 2 down, 9th inning. Perez has come on to run at first. White Sox, something else as you would expect the best team to have done. 1-run ball games, an amazing 19 wins already in 1-run games. 19 and 8.
And that's no accident. I mean, you know, there's a reason that you win 1-run ball games. There's a reason that you're a winning team. There's a reason that, you know, some teams make the winning shot at the buzzer. There are reasons that, you know, the slap shot goes in at a certain time. So that's what winning is all about, knowing how to get the job done at the proper time.
1 ball, 1 strike count with 2 down here in the 9th. As Torres takes it down low, 0 for 3 and a sacrifice so far. Dustin Hermanson looking for the save. Jim Tracy looking for a savior.
And it's up to Hermanson to finish this off for the White Sox. You know, because it's also just the opposite. It could be devastating, you know, to a team when you're 1 out away, where you're actually 1 strike away from winning. And now he's about to walk the tying run to second base. That's like unbelievable to me, that pitch right there. It's 2 balls, 1 strike. Torres is not a home run hitter. You don't want to walk anyone, and you throw him the breaking ball.
It's time to write another book, Joe.
Yeah.
Hermanson, 3-1 count. As Torres down the left field side. Pasetnik coming over to end the ball game. Does.
Could have thrown that 2-1 instead of going to 3-1.
The White Sox have swept the Dodgers in this 3-game stand and pick up yet another 1-run win. 5-0 Felipe Sanchez the loser. Hermanson his 16th save. 4-3 the final. 2 unearned runs. The Dodgers with 3 errors that did cost them in this game. There you see our State Farm AL/NL showdown numbers. The American League 4 sweeps versus the National League teams. And this Chicago White Sox ball club just continues to pound on. And I don't mean that just in the term of long ball hitting. An impressive win. 4-3, the White Sox over the Dodgers. They gain a game. They're now 8 ahead of the Twins. The Dodgers continue the road trip without a win. They are 0-6. Sports Center is coming up next. For Joe Morgan, Sam Ryan, and all of our crew, Sunday Night Baseball, I'm Gary Thorne. Thanks for being with us. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Happy rest of